Hello and welcome to episode 71 of Loaded Sport. The lads are back. We've got a full squad after me and Aggie took you through last week's action, so we're going to get stuck right in. Speaking of Aggie, I'm going to leave him till the end because he is going to kick us off on the first subject tonight. So, first of all, I'm going to bring in the poorly man who was 50-50, did not train this week, but did manage to make it on game day. Sam, how are you, mate, and how are you feeling?
Yeah, better, mate. A lot better than what I was. Questionable, hanging above my head all week, as you say. But game time decision, I've pulled through for the boys. So yeah, let's have at it.
That's absolute, mate. You went away this past weekend, mate. Spent the weekend in a caravan with Katie. Yes. Tell us and the viewers how you got on.
Yeah, brilliant. So luckily, I think you locked down here in the Midlands had quite a bit of shit weather this weekend, on and off with rains and shit like that. So that's what mum and dad said. But we missed all of that. It were blue skies pretty much all the time. Did a bit of swimming in the swimming pool, the on-site swimming pool. Definitely not the sea because it was far too cold for that. Whether it be just because it was sunny. Had a walk around the pier. Got some cracking fish and chips from Trawler's Catch. I know that's not your favourite one, but
Shark Dinner, mate. We call it by its proper name.
Oh, is it? Oh, it is the same place, is it?
Yeah.
That's okay.
The yeah.
Okay, right. So I always thought you was recommending another place when you said Shark Dinner. Right, that's fine then.
That's it.
Yeah, found a cracking little cafe that does the best breakfasts in Skegness, literally ranked on Google.
We went like they had a sign up, like in America, say best coffee and stuff. I thought
no. Google recommendation always. I'm always prepared. I can't just go and wander around and just find first place I see. Yeah. Went to a seal sanctuary, looked at some seal pups and some fucking meerkats and crocodile. I mean, crocodile in Skegness, that was weird. But yeah, overall, really good weekend. But as you can probably hear on my voice, I'm a little bit worse for it at the minute. I'm just recovering from the old COVID-y. So yeah, not a bad weekend all in all. Thank you very much for asking.
Happy days, mate, and good to have you back. Next up is a man that, again, wasn't here last week, not because he was poorly, but because he was living life in the Republic of Ireland capital that is Dublin. Kemp, again, how are you, mate? And talk us through how your weekend away was.
Yeah, great, thank you. Had a really good time. Missing the Guinness wholeheartedly. So much so that I've cut drinking out of my life now because I know I'm not going to get that same experience. So now I've actually made the conscious decision that I don't think I'm going to have a drink until Christmas. So we'll see how that one goes this Sunday when the Giants are getting spanked again. But yeah, had a really good time. Did all the tours, the touristy stuff, and then went to the Game of Thrones museum, which I know Sam sent you lots of pictures of that, and that seems like right up your alley as well, which was
Big
really
time.
Good. But I also, in my week off, managed to procure some items that I just wanted to share with everybody on the podcast and just see what your thoughts were on the catch, as it were. We mentioned the Trawler's Catch there, the catch that I got this last week. So, Sam, I'll start with you. And there's been a lot of publicity on Loaded Sport about your optimism and confidence, perhaps, with your new quarterback. So what I thought I'd do, as you know, is you have a new jersey on its way to you, courtesy of TK. So that's the number one. That's a
what a boy. What a boy.
Now we're carrying on this tradition. Aggie, you're a miserable cunt, so I thought I'd cheer you up a little bit and get you a colour rush.
What a guy.
Number 24. So there you go, that's a present for you. And Dawson, your Patriots are fucking shit at the minute. But what I thought I'd do is I thought I'd try and cheer you up just a little bit. I give you a bit of a trivia question. Who's the number 9 for the New England Patriots this season?
Matt Judon.
And Matt Judon is the player you will have on your back when you are representing the Patriots and Loaded Sport for the rest of the season. So there you go, boys. I come back from Dublin bearing American gifts, as it were, which is strange. But there you go. For my Loaded Sport, boys. Always. But yeah, it was a fantastic week off. Hope you enjoy your jerseys, boys. Just a little token of my appreciation for all three of you lads. Through thick and through thin. And speaking of thick, Aggie, it's your turn, isn't it?
I can't lie. After all that graciousness of Kempy just giving away, just unreal from him. Only thing I think thinking back of my head is thinking, where the fuck is man with the mic coming? And it's not good this episode.
Yeah, true.
Oh, by the way, yeah, sorry, Mr. Dawson, Mr. White Man with the mic. How are you?
There we go.
Away we go.
He's back. Let's crack on. And last, but again, by certainly no means least, is the man that is going to kick us off with the first subject tonight. It is the man that led me through, dragged me through episode 70. It is, of course, Aggie. So, Aggie, first of all, how are you, mate? And second of all, start us off with the first subject of the week, which is talking us through your flash score commentary debut.
baby. Whoa, whoa.
Well, it's fine. That's fine. Well, it's fine, mate. We'll loop it back in. Don't worry about it. We've got it all under control.
I've got a player ready and everything.
Quick before he forgets him. Yes, mate, I'm good, thank you. Hope you are as well. It was a very interesting yet exciting experience on Saturday covering for Flash Score. Very different to anything I've been familiar with. As you guys know, I've been working my arse off for a long time trying to get these sort of opportunities. Working, doing 4-hour radio shows, that kind of stuff, where you've got to do an hour build up, an hour after as well, talking about the games, the results, that sort of stuff. So for me, it was a very surreal and different experience to kick things off. Obviously, you guys, and I appreciate the support you gave me leading up to kick off, because I was very bloody nervous. So thank you for that. And then as soon as things kicked off at 1:30, I did the little trial run where they just checked that all the sound check's good, said everything's fine. Thought, right, what am I going to do now for the next 25, 30 minutes? Because for me, it's just, at this point, I'm too busy, talking about the game. Just managed to sit and watch a bit of TV. And then as soon as it hit 5-2, I was live. I was doing the team news, going through the build-up to the game, which was very exciting. Of course, heading into West Ham against Sheffield United. And then the game itself, the first half. And then at half-time, normally I'm just sat talking again. But no, I got a break this time. So, I got a glass of water, been able to relax for 15 minutes before the second half kicks off. And then you go again. Lagging a little bit towards the back end of it. It's the first time I've ever done commentary on my own. But in general, I think that will come over time. But yeah, all in all, excellent experience. Can't believe I'm sat there talking about football for literally 2 hours and getting paid for it.
Well, that has always been, as long as we've known you, mate, and for much, much longer than that, been your dream, mate. So, honestly, mate, we're so proud of you that you've got even further up that ladder now, and this is the start now of being a part of the big picture. But I do have a question for you, because obviously in the UK we do have the blackout, as it's called, on the Saturday 3 p.m. kickoff. So, obviously, Flash Score is an official platform, and they're going to have some kind of licensing which allows their commentators, aka you, to access that. So you might not be able to give us the name of that platform or whatever it is, but just out of my own curiosity, talk me through how you are able to watch a Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff and not have the police knocking on your door.
Similar to how those at Sky Sports do. It's. I think there's different licensing for different companies. You're not allowed to stream it. You're not allowed to show it live. So you can talk about it, that kind of thing, but you're not allowed to show it live across the country. So it's like BT couldn't do it, or TNT as they're now known. Sky couldn't stream a 3 o'clock kickoff, that kind of thing. So I think there's things in place that have allowed us to do it. I've just been told what I needed to do to make sure I can watch it. So I've done what they've told me to do. But the rest of it, where they get it all from, the licenses, that kind of stuff's above my pay grade. So yeah, I don't worry about that. But yeah, it's nice to be able to sit and watch it. And I got to see the Blaze for the first time this season. And Kemp, you're right, they are shit, mate, this year.
Seen it for the first time, and I'm guessing hopefully the last, but who knows what could happen over the next few months. So look, that's the intros out of the way, and I feel like there's a lot of love in this room. Maybe it's because we've had a couple of weeks of not having the full squad together. So shall we get stuck in and start falling out with each other and arguing? Because I feel like that's where we do
back to normal.
Stuff. So
back to normal.
Back to normal. So we're going to kick off with Loyal Man. The order tonight is Kemp, then me, then Sam, then Aggie. So Kemp, I'm going to guess it's not Mario Melchior. I'm going to guess it's not the man whose team I'm repping tonight, Lionel Messi of Inter Miami. Talk us through, give us the shout, and kick us off with who is the player that starts Loyal Man this week.
The player that starts Loyal Man this week is Kevin Muscat.
Kevin Muscat. I'm going to go Reading.
Stephen Hunt.
Aston Villa.
John McGinn.
Kilmarnock.
Craig Bryson.
Who?
Craig Bryson.
Derby.
Yes, well done.
Good Aggie. Good Aggie.
Wayne Rooney.
Manchester United. Fuck it.
Michael Owen.
At Liverpool.
Emil Heskey.
Leicester.
Jamie Vardy.
Fleetwood.
Anthony Sarcevic.
Ooh, Wigan.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Well,
Not this week. Not this week.
Let me just confirm. Could have had a bullshit on Muscat as well, right at the start.
Yeah, I went short on that, to be honest.
And who did you say? Who did you say for Sarcevic?
Wigan.
Wigan. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Wigan. Yes. No. He's not played for Wigan. But it's very, very unfortunate because he's played for Crewe, which is not far away, Chester, which is not far away, and Bolton, and Stockport. All like around Wigan.
Area? Yeah.
No, unfortunately not.
Fuck. We'll try again next week.
I'll claim that one.
I'm kicking off next week, so I'll try and do better on that one. But anyway, the headline of this week, we spoke about, me and Aggie, we previewed Spurs versus Liverpool in that Saturday evening kickoff, and there has been next to no discussion off the back of it about Spurs winning, about the performance, about the goals. It's all about the refereeing decisions and the VAR and everything that's gone off. Everyone knows it's been all over the news and everyone's got their opinion. So, Aggie, I'm going to start with you, mate, because you've been the biggest opponent of VAR and everything else. So we spoke about it briefly when we went to watch Town on Tuesday night. I don't even know where to start because there's so much. The red cards, the goal for Luis Diaz that should have been given that wasn't, the audio that's come out off the back of it, and the fact that the people in VAR didn't correct anything because they thought it'd be given on field, and just an absolute shambles from start to finish, and ruined what could and should have been a real highlight game at this stage of the season. So, Aggie, talk us through your thoughts.
It's quite embarrassing, isn't it, to see these constantly happening? And I think Klopp said that he thinks the game should be replayed. I think that's a bit extreme. I think the audio that's come out leads me to believe that there was about 20-25 seconds of play after they'd allowed the play to restart. It's not like they've been playing for 20-30 minutes. At that point, as far as I'm concerned, you can pull it back and say it's a goal and just, kick off and maybe add that on as added time towards the end, which is an easy route out of it. I think, I want to point out and make clear, because I know everyone's going on about how I hate referees, I hate VAR, all that sort of stuff. I don't hate the concept of VAR. I think the personnel running it are hopeless. And this is just another prime example of why they're getting things wrong, because the people that are doing it are making error after error. And I think from a refereeing perspective, it is going all the way down the ladder, all the way down the pyramid at the moment. There seems to be a real inconsistency ever since, goal line technology, maybe even VAR came in, that referees just don't seem to have the same sort of understanding of what the rules of the game are. I know some of it's opinionated, but it's just, for me, I think until we've got it nailed on, we shouldn't be using VAR, because as soon as we do, all this media spotlight's going to go straight towards it, and we're going to constantly be going round and round in circles of should we have it, should we not, we've got another issue, this is a problem. Fix the problem of the people first, and then start using VAR and implement it a little bit more. But at the moment, it's doing more harm than good, because even people's comments are so negative towards it that at some point everyone's just going to be against it and get it out of the game completely.
Yeah, but how do you practice that then? If you ban it completely until it's 100% sorted, how do you know it's 100% sorted until it's in practice?
Courses. Give the referees additional courses on using VAR and implementing it within the rules and the structure of the game at the moment. The rules are forever changing. The offside rules changed at least a dozen times since I started watching football. So, yeah, just give them extra courses to be able to sit down and go through.
You still don't know in a live game scenario whether it works or not. You can do as many courses as you want. In a live game scenario, you still don't know whether it works or not, do you?
No, you're right. So maybe bring it in a lesser level, if that makes sense. I know putting it straight into the Premier League where everyone's claiming, it's a big deal and that sort of stuff. And I think, did it not start at the World Cup? Was that?
Yeah.
Or the Euros, wasn't
Euros
it?
and World Cup.
Euros and World Cup it first started at. And to be fair, it actually seemed to work quite well.
Very well.
And from what I understand is other countries, it seems to work quite well. It just seems to be
this
why
that is?
It's got an absolute nightmare.
Do you know why that is? Because teams last season in the Premier League voted against semi-automatic VAR. Semi-automatic VAR is what they use in the Champions League and in the World Cup, international tournaments, etc. What happens there is that there's a software that essentially allows the VAR system to detect an offside and makes the decision instantly. There's no need for human interaction whatsoever. Premier League clubs last season voted against the implementation of that semi-automatic VAR, meaning the VAR will be controlled by people at Stockley Park and referees essentially controlling the outcome of the game. And why do you think that is, Adam? What's your theory on why you think that Premier League overall, the vast majority of the clubs in the Premier League, rejected that notion?
I'm not sure. You tell me if you know.
The exact same reason that Sheffield United, albeit we've been shit this season, and I'll openly admit to that, the exact same reason that Sheffield United have been shafted with referees' decisions ever since the start of the season. Same as Bournemouth, same as Brentford, same as Luton. So all these clubs that aren't big clubs and shouldn't be there, essentially, according to the rest of the Premier League elitist view on the Premier League. That's why they don't want semi-automatic VAR, because if they have an automated system in place, they can't be biased towards the big teams. And we all know, for the past God knows how long football's been around and referees have been involved in the game at the top level, they are always biased towards the big teams. Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Everton, to even some respect, because they're a big historic team. The bias is always towards the big clubs. Liverpool have had it against them this last week, and they don't fucking like it. The amount of decisions they've had in the past few years that have been an absolute disgrace is ridiculous. That's why they've not implemented semi-automatic VAR, because all they want is the elitist clubs at the top of the Premier League. Everybody else don't get fuck all in terms of decisions, and we do what we want. Well, I'm sorry, Liverpool, but this last weekend, it's come back to bite you, and I've got no fucking sympathy.
Yeah, and Klopp has come out in the news saying replay it. Well, that's the ideal thing that they want off the back of it. And then everyone on social media's, big screenshots of all the incidents over the years where they benefited from. So, look, teams benefit from it, lose out from it if you can go back over years and it's relatively even. But, yeah, it's hard to pinpoint where the issue is for this, really, for me personally, because it's not like the refs are going to miss offside. That's the whole point of VAR coming in. But I don't understand how VAR, the people working on VAR can go, oh, they've given it, it's fine. And then 30 seconds later be going, oh, shit, they've not given it. Oh, shit, what do? We can't do anything. Like, surely you can do something like to just say, lads, stop. That was a goal. You need to go back and kick off. All right, sweet, sorted. And that's it. Like, that is literally it. That would have sorted the whole thing. But because it had gone on for 30 seconds and it had been kicked up the other side of the pitch, and then when they took the free kick and then it ended up out as a throw and it was too late. Like, come on. It's just pure common sense. It's not a lack of knowledge, because it's not like they saw it and then went, oh no, that's offside, and then didn't give it. They gave it. They saw that it was onside. So I'm not really sure whether to pinpoint the actual issue here. Like, just common sense. It's nothing else.
Yeah, I think most definitely the common sense comes into it when they've realised after the fact that essentially what they've said is, yeah, that's fine, no problem at all. The reason they said, yeah, that's fine, no problem at all, we're not going to overturn it, is because they thought the decision on the pitch was onside.
Yeah,
they didn't
realise what I mean.
It was offside. And that's the problem. That's where it all stems from, is that you've got people making these decisions. And while I don't want robots and AI to take over the world, because that would be very bad for all of us, but there's the semi-automatic VAR situation that works, because it works in the Champions League, it works in international tournaments. We've seen it work on Wednesday night, when Man United got that goal against Galatasaray. Straight away, VAR, offside, Højlund, what can you do? It's offside, I understand that.
So it worked perfectly. Newcastle game last night.
Exactly.
3 or 4 inches, perfect every single time.
Wherever you've got humans involved in the decision-making process, there will always be room for human error. And that's all it was. And again, the reason that this happened, and you can blame me, blame fucking Dawson, blame fucking Ag, Klopp can blame anybody, right? And he normally does, to be fair to him. He normally blames fucking grass being too long or wind being too high, that fella does. But ultimately, in the end, the reason that this has happened is because the Premier League doesn't have a semi-automatic VAR, okay? And the second reason that this has happened is because for some reason, fuck knows why, we can't pull a game back 30 seconds after keeper's kicked it out. These are the two issues from that particular instance that need to be changed. But I tell you now, we can't see who's voted for what in the Premier League, but I fucking bet you that Liverpool were one of those clubs that voted against semi-automatic VAR so they could get some decisions. I bet you.
Very interesting. I'm just getting up this statement now that was released after the game. PGMOL acknowledged a significant human error during Tottenham versus Liverpool. Hang on, I'm reading a fucking parody one there. I don't want that, do we?
Are you sure you're not reading?
Paddy Power.
Yeah, that's what it was, yeah.
Are you not sure you're not reading the proper one? Because it looks like it's a parody when you read it.
No, yeah, true, to be fair, but no, I caught it just in time. PGMOL acknowledged a significant human error occurred during the first half of Tottenham Hotspur versus Liverpool. The goal by Luis Diaz was disallowed for offside by the on-field team of match officials. This was a clear and obvious factual error and should have resulted in the goal being awarded through VAR intervention. However, the VAR failed to intervene. PGMOL will conduct a full review into the circumstances which led to the error. PGMOL will immediately be contacting Liverpool at the conclusion of the fixture to acknowledge the error. So they've released a statement. They've then a couple of days later released the audio. It's also been announced that the referee in charge of that game will not be reffing. The person that was in charge of the VAR will not be officiating a Liverpool game for the rest of the season. So that's pretty much it. So if we're talking consequences, because that's what it is. We always argue with Aggie that there's nothing wrong with VAR as a concept. It's the people that are sat running it and looking at it. So, Sam, I'll come to you really. What should the punishment be? What should the consequences be of this? Because this is not the first time that there's been an issue. This is not the first time that a statement has had to come out off the back of an issue as well.
I think it's really difficult to put a punishment on it. What they've done is the correct course of action, I think, by removing him from all Liverpool games. But then all they're doing is it's clearly incompetent, whoever it is. And all they're doing is just shift him onto another team and letting him deal with another set of potential failures. So I think any kind of mistake that goes to that length, because I don't even think it's classed as a mistake that at this point. I think it was pure negligence in
terms of the decision, he got it right. It was just that not realising that they'd not given it on the pitch to say it's a goal.
Yeah, well, they need more training then, don't they? It's as simple as that. They need maybe re-putting through the training course like they did, to take that VAR course originally. So, but like Kemp's already said, the fact that they've all voted against automated offsides, it scratches your head.
It's not all. It's the majority of the 20. So more than 12 out of the 20 will have voted against it.
So essentially, because I didn't realise that. You see, that's new to me. So they essentially opted for the line placement, where they're fucking about having to put lines on the last.
They opted. They didn't opt. They didn't opt for that. I don't believe. All I know is they opted against semi-automatic VAR, which means they opted against the system that's in the Champions League, the World Cup, etc., etc. So what that means is that then that will go to the people at Stockley Park, who will then draw the lines and then make that decision. And again, while ever you've got humans making that decision, there will always be room for human error.
Yeah, no, you can't say it better than that. I can't get my head around why they would. Like you say, whether it is that biasness and they're just looking to nick a decision here and there, that could well be it. That could be a bit of a conspiracy that you're onto. But yeah, it's really poor. I know you said you don't feel for Liverpool. I can't quite. I kind of do. I think it's that bad that if it happened to my team, I would be fucking absolutely fuming.
But our teams haven't historically got what they've got.
No, they aren't.
Do you think that's influenced Kemp as well? Very, very quickly about you shared the video earlier, and I'd seen it of the interview a few years ago, where basically someone was saying to Van Dijk in a post-match interview, "Do you think that this other team they were playing?" And it was like, "Who cares?" And that's it. Like you can't be like, "I don't give a shit," because we
can't be like, "Who cares?" When one person, that's it. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. You're spot on. And again, it's not the technology. And this proves more than ever that it's not the technology. The Champions League and the World Cup, and let's say the Champions League and leave the World Cup and all the international shit out of it. The Champions League midweek has proven that technology works, right? That flies in the face of anybody saying that VAR doesn't work. If you're saying VAR don't work, no offence, Ag, you need to give your head a shake, right? That proves that it works. What doesn't work is the implementation by our officials of the VAR. So for me, tomorrow, get semi-automatic VAR in, and as many decisions as you can take away from the incompetent referees we've got, the better. Because some of the refereeing so far this season has been a fucking shit show.
And at this point, we said when it started in the World Cup, "Oh, that's really brilliant." We said during the first season of it being used in the Champions League, "Oh, it's working really well." Again, we mentioned the Newcastle game, which we're going to get onto very shortly, how well it worked with the Dan Burn goal. They took a little bit of time to check it, but it was absolutely perfect. And then they show the graphics of the offside. And instantly you can see, oh yeah, brilliant. You can tell why it was offside or not offside. The Premier League is the richest league in the world by a mile, with the TV rights and all the money they bring in. For me, they've not got any excuse to not be implementing this technology that is working in other areas and other competitions. But something's got to change, because at this point, we're not talking about the technology itself anymore. We're talking about the people that are supposed to be there to correct mistakes, and they're not. And it looks worse because they're there to correct mistakes, and like I said, they're not. But anyway, we'll move on, and we'll move on to Champions League this week. Sam, I'm going to come to you first. I know you watched the game. We were commenting on it throughout the game. 52,000 people packed in to St James's Park in Newcastle for Newcastle's first home Champions League fixture in about 20 years. Hosting PSG, one of the top clubs in the world, the team that they were probably wincing at the most when they got drawn against earlier this year. And they ran out 4-1 winners. Goals from Miguel Almiron, Dan Burn in the first half, gave them a 2-0 lead at half-time. And then second half goals by Sean Langstaff and Fabian Shaw, an absolute screamer from that central defender, either side of a Hernandez consolation goal. Mbappe was nowhere to be seen. He might have not played. But yeah, Newcastle 4, PSG 1. Just a raucous, white-hot crowd all night. They were well up for it. What a result and what a game of football, Sam.
Unbelievable. It's first, I think one of the first Champions League games I've actually watched this season and loved it. Absolutely loved it. As soon as that Champions League music hit before the game started, the crowd were up, chanting away and that, and it was just, I got goosebumps halfway through watching that. It was an absolute spectacle. Unreal performance. Like you say, Mbappe nowhere to be seen. It's just... Oh, sorry, Ags, I've just seen Ags just dropped something in chat. Sorry about that. I'm possibly then. Yeah, what a night. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted there. You're going to have to take over, Skin, because I've completely forgot what I was going to say.
Newcastle, mate. Mbappe went missing. Have we got you? You're coming back? No. Well, yeah, I'll crack on then. Well done, Aggie. Yeah, just a phenomenal performance. I had it down as 1-1. PSG aren't the same team that they have been over the years, and they are struggling a little bit this season. Of course, they've lost Messi, they've lost Neymar. Newcastle were always going to be right up for it. We know how passionate their fans are, so having that home field advantage, as they say in the NFL, I fancied a 1-1 draw, but I can't see many people predicting a 4-1 win for Newcastle last night.
Tell you what I was going to say. I do apologise for jumping in there. Group of death. Yeah. Everyone winced when Newcastle got the short straw. They were the fourth team to be added to it. We could see it was already good at PSG, AC Milan, Dortmund. You're thinking, bloody hell, whoever's getting that fourth spot's in for a good hiding week in, week out in Champions League. And lo and behold, the top at group after 2 games. So, yeah, what a start for the Champions League for Newcastle. Not played a Champions League game in 20 years. And yeah, all of a sudden they've got 4 points, unbeaten. Went to Milan, got a point. They always say if you can draw your away games and win your own games, you're laughing in your Champions League. And there we go. And I don't think anybody quite seen a PSG getting a hiding like that. And yeah, unbelievable result for Newcastle and English football, I'd like to add.
Yeah, definitely. I saw quite a few people on social media during and after the game saying, it was blood money and it was PSG being in a similar ownership. But if you look, we can spend all day getting into the politics of it, and we have done in the past, but we've got to look at this as 22 players on the pitch plus the subs that come on, and a lot of those Newcastle players were there before this upturn in form. Local lads like Dan Burn and Longstaff, who both managed to score. I was watching the post-match coverage and the interviews and stuff. No, just absolutely brilliant, and yeah, just... I tell you what, it would have been an experience to be in that ground last night as a part of that crowd. Absolutely phenomenal. But Ken, any comments? I gave the bold prediction at the start of the season that I thought Newcastle might drop out of the top 8, considering this Champions League. And like you said, Sam, the group of death and squad depth and potential injuries might catch up to them. But after a fantastic start, that 5-1 win against Aston Villa, they did drop off. We previewed the game against Brentford a couple of weeks ago, talking about the form, but they beat Brentford. They then battered Sheffield United. They played very well in the game against Burnley at the weekend, which I watched as well. And then, of course, the result last night. They're riding a wave of momentum at the moment and confidence. You see, again, the game against Burnley, tackles going in early on and players literally pumping up the crowd and the crowd going mad. And you saw it again last night. For a team like Newcastle, again, who on paper haven't got the greatest squad and are going to bring in players over the next few seasons to really get to where they want to be. But what do you think for where they're at the minute, the squad they've got? Do you think that momentum will die off as the games start to come thick and fast? Or do you think that with how they're set up, with how they coach, with how they manage, with the passion and the confidence they got behind them, that this is a really good foundation for them through the rest of the season?
Yeah, I mean, they're all riding away from recent results. There's no getting away from that. But let's not ignore the fact that they got pretty convincingly beaten against Brighton. got pretty convincingly beaten against City. I know it was only 1-0, but they barely touched the ball. And then they lost against Liverpool and they switched off in the last minute and lost 2-1. So, yes, they did get those emphatic victories, but they've also had some disappointing defeats so far this season as well. Again, yes, they are riding the wave. They absolutely smashed us off the park. They made me leave at 35 minutes, which I've never done at Bramall Lane and possibly never will again, but there you go. But yeah, I mean, I think the concern for most of us was the fixture congestion and how they're going to get on down the stretch. And at this point in time, it's a little bit early to see how they will potentially do that. Again, beat PSG last night. Arguably a weaker PSG side than we're used to seeing, but that's up for debate. But yeah, listen, take nothing away from them. They did really, really well. The crowd got behind them. The atmosphere was unbelievable, and they absolutely they played PSG off the park, which is unbelievable for them. But again, I think the main concern was that down the stretch they might struggle, and that's, unless we've got a crystal ball, that's something that we've not quite seen yet. So really good momentum, and I hope they keep it up for the sake of their fans. But yeah, early days.
Yeah, definitely. And on to our next subject. It's something that I've added in last minute, because today has been the latest England squad announcement. And Aggie, I'm going to come to you for this one, mate, to start us off on this. The big news being that Jared Bowen of West Ham has been brought in, as well as Ollie Watkins, a striker that you're a big fan of and was a popular choice for you when we were doing our lot scorers and wildcards last year. Two players that have been brought in. Probably the biggest omission, which was probably the biggest omission last month when they had a couple of games, is James Ward-Prowse. Yet again, doesn't make the squad despite his fine start to the campaign with West Ham. Players, again, like Harry Maguire, Calvin Phillips and Jordan Henderson are still in the squad as well. What do you think about the latest England squad announcement, and does it really change your opinion of what the future holds short-term for the England national team?
Does it change my opinion? No, I know I made the joke of it's coming home, but I always do that anyway. When Ollie Watkins and Eddie Nketiah was brought up to the England squad. Nketiah I'll leave to one side because he's somebody that I briefly mentioned when Jesus was out injured last season and felt that maybe he could have contributed a little bit more. This season he seems to have picked up his game ever so slightly. I still don't think he's the out-and-out striker that Arsenal need. As for Ollie Watkins, I'm so pleased that he's managed to get called up. I think he's very much worthy of it. His performances since Unai Emery's taken over at Aston Villa have been different level. I think he's one of the reasons why Aston Villa have been performing as highly as they have. The way in which he's adapted his approach and his style of play to that of Unai Emery's style. He's even said in interviews before that he doesn't feel that he'd be playing to this level if he didn't have Emery guiding him through that. You know, he's given him that sort of man management to help him improve his game as well. So I think he's very deserving of it. And of course, you get a hat-trick when Gareth Southgate's in the stand watching. It's never going to go amiss, is it? So that's great for him to see. As for the omission of James Ward-Prowse, I can't seem to get my head around that one. I think he's one of the best players that we've got that doesn't seem to get called up for England. And I can't seem to understand why. He's a set piece taker, something that we need quite strongly. He's reliable in the middle of the park, something we need, especially when you're looking at the likes of Jordan Henderson being called up. That's no disrespect to Rice or to Bellingham, who, of course, going to be the starters, but I think having a bit more ability and depth as opposed to experience, especially in these kind of games, wouldn't go amiss. And all right, you might call up Henderson, Pickford, Maguire, players like that aren't playing for their club because you need experience within the side. Do we really need that for a friendly and a European game? And, we don't. We don't need Maguires or Hendersons that aren't playing for their club in this squad. So why not give Ward-Prowse that chance to get a bit more international minutes under his belt, ready for when we go to a tournament, and we might be reliant on him.
Yeah, but how long can we keep saying this about, we need to bring him along for experience? Southgate's been the England manager now since about, 2017, 2018? It's a good 5 or 6 years, 5 years now that these similar group of players have been selected. Your Rashford, your Harry Kane. I mean, he's one of the biggest leaders we've got. We don't need to be bringing players along just because they're good locker room guys and good. I mean, that's an NFL term, but good lads in changing room, or just a leader. What's that for? And like you say, it's a friendly against Australia, and I know it's obviously a big tie against Italy that we've got coming up. But for me, Jordan Henderson is an absolute waste of a pick there in centre mid when we've got the likes of James Ward-Prowse in midfield. He's gambled on Calvin Phillips being in there, and I sound quite hypocritical on that, but he's played for England quite well the last 2 times he has been selected. Don't get me wrong, he shouldn't really be there on basis of club form, but I don't mind him. It's because he's young as well, so he's still got that upside to him. Whereas he's at the end of his career, Maguire as well, but Henderson's at the end of his career, and I just don't see the plus side in bringing him along. Whereas with Phillips, I kind of get that because, like I say, he's still quite young and does have that upside to him. Yeah. But yeah, it's the same conversation we have every time an England squad's announced, isn't it? There's the same couple of 3 or 4 players that get automatic passes into the team. We never quite know why, and there we are again discussing the same thing.
Every single time. And yeah, like you mentioned there, Sam, it's a friendly against Australia next Friday, and then the European Championship qualifying game against Italy on the Tuesday after that. So we'll preview the games themselves next week, and Kemp will save your thoughts for episode 72, of which I'm sure they've not changed whatsoever with this latest squad announcement, but you could surprise them. Sam, very quickly, actually, you mentioned a bold prediction. We were talking about Harry Maguire being in the squad, other defenders that are playing very well at the moment. Just put on record what your prediction was regarding Harry Maguire and his potential play time in the next couple of games.
Harry Maguire, you've lost me, mate. My brain's not working. My brain's not working at full function today. You're gonna have to help me. Look, I can't remember that. You've dropped me on the spot there.
Sorry, mate. Let me.
I did a bold prediction about Harry Maguire, did I?
I'm sure.
Oh, sorry.
You didn't start.
Sorry, yeah, of course I did. Right, I'm with you. So I all I'm saying is I've got a funny feeling that he's not going to be starting in either game. I think the Australia one's a perfect chance, because especially with being the first game, perfect chance to experiment. I'm hoping to see a bit of Tamori in there, a bit of Gay in there.
He played very well. Dunk as well. Dunk. There's no reason at this point to have Maguire in the squad, is there?
Yeah, Dunk for me was absolutely outstanding in the last couple of internationals. So I'm hoping he gets the start alongside. I don't know if Stones is Stones part of the squad, is he, or is he still injured?
He's back. He's back.
So yeah, Stones and Dunk for me would be the first pair. That'd probably be in the Italy game, because that's probably a starting pair, I think. And then maybe in the Australia game, I'm looking to see some Guy and Tamori maybe. So
it'd be nice to have a pretty much full rotation, even like a Ramsdale starting in goal.
Yeah, there's no reason to be starting your full strength against Australia when Italy's just around the corner. So yeah, for me, next Friday is a bit of an experimental game. So I'm hoping to see a bit of a change up. Kemp shaking his head. He's absolutely having none of it.
I love it. No, I love it. I completely agree with you. I think this is exactly what they should do. But lads, you're living in Clark Cuckoo land.
I know.
You know what he's not
save it.
Can't help it. Can't help it, can I?
There's a tournament coming up next year. You can't help but get excited, and I can't wait.
That's your jab.
What's he gonna do? Is it? He's gonna, in these meaningless games, he's just gonna drop Maguire all of a sudden. You know what he's gonna do? You just teasing
right.
your own bollocks.
You're right. Again, you are right. But the reason why I've said this now, and I've never really said this before, is because we've got the experience of what went before, didn't we? Maguire against Scotland, he was fucking hammered. It was absolutely hammered, and
scored the own goal.
Scored the own goal, and obviously Southgate come out afterwards with that ridiculous interview saying it's disgusting how he's been treated, and we all said collectively it's your fault, Southgate. You've put him in to fail. So I can't see the only way around it is I think it might try and phase him out from this point onwards. If he didn't select him now altogether, I think that's a huge statement. But I think if he brings him along into the squad and maybe don't start him, and then maybe in the next squad after that he don't pick him at all, I don't know. I'm kind of spitballing, but that's my theory of what's potentially going to happen.
Very ambitious. It's very, very ambitious.
Ambitious and maybe false hope. But
I think so. But
no, probably so. But that's the logic I kind of see, that maybe he's doing it for that reason, and he's kind of trying to phase him out. But like I say, you never know. He'd probably start against Australia next Friday, and whatever I'm saying here is just absolute bullshit. So you don't know.
No. What you're saying is not bullshit. What you're saying is sense. What that fucking idiot does is bullshit, and that's the difference.
True enough.
So that is in the future, as well as what has been in the past, being the England squad announcement today. And we are going to move on. Before we get to England in the international break next weekend, we have got the subject of this weekend. And the headline match is Arsenal against Manchester City. Last year's top two teams that went point for point, pretty much right until the very end before Arsenal fell off and City took the title. Aggie, I'm going to come to you for this one because we're going to preview that game on Sunday, 4:30. You love a Super Sunday. You love running a bath, getting yourself in there and watching this 7 hours of coverage in boiling hot water and ended it in freezing cold because you've just sat there. Weird, but anyway, we'll move on. So Arsenal versus Manchester City, and before we get into sort of your actual thoughts on the game, a subject that I wanted to bring up, and that is the current goalkeeping battle and change from Arteta between Aaron Ramsdale and David Raya, the summer signing from Brentford. Raya has now started the last 5 games, if you take out an EFL Cup game against Brentford, which Ramsdale started. The last 5 games, other than that, including 2 Champions League games and 3 Premier League games, David Raya has started. So it does seem like Mikel Arteta has potentially moved away from Aaron Ramsdale as his number one choice, despite his phenomenal performance last season, despite him starting the season as number one, despite the last game that he started being a Premier League game against Manchester United, which they won 3-1. So it's not like it was off the back of mistakes and losses. They've started the season very well. So with David Raya all of a sudden seemingly being Mikel Arteta's number one choice, I suppose it's a 2-part question. One, do you think it's warranted that he's made that change, or why do you think he's made that change? And 2, do you think that that's fair on Ramsdale considering what he did last season and the fact that they had a good start up to that point?
I'm going to just play down the old Ramsdale starting in the Cup instead of Raya because it was against Brentford and in the Cup, and I think he was cup tied, wasn't he? He wasn't able to play in that game.
Yeah, that's fair point. So yeah, we'll completely ignore that.
Because obviously he's only on loan. So thinking about him and Ramsdale in a comparison, which one's going to get the position? For me, I've heard loads of rumours that Ramsdale's been told he needs to seek a move away from the Emirates to pursue his career further. Raya himself is much better at distributing the ball. A couple of errors that Ramsdale made last year was costly. And maybe Arteta's looking at, that's the reason why we weren't as close to City and we didn't see it over the line when we were 8, 12 points clear at the time. So he's moved on to a guy that can now distribute the ball. Ramsdale's a good shot stopper. Raya's a good shot stopper. Both command their area very well. So the only thing for me is Arsenal like to play out from the back, as do a lot of sides now. And at that point, Raya's your better option. So for me, I think he's gone in that direction, thinking the only thing we're missing is being able to build up from the back. Let's get a goalkeeper that can contribute to that. David Raya's the option. Ramsdale, we've got the option now to move him on. He's still been performing well, like you said. So there's going to be teams sniffing around thinking we're looking for a goalkeeper that can play well. It's not like they've let him finish off his career, play poorly and people be like, well, he's had a bad time. He's finished in quite good form. So there's going to be some sides that could still look around and they could get a good fee for him.
And yeah, it's an interesting one because, again, like you said, it's not like he's aging and they've sort of passed the torch. It's not like he's been playing terribly, so they've had to bring in this very, very good number 2 that they've brought in over the summer. He's still playing really well. So in terms of where he could potentially go, I'm not sure because with how good he is, I can't see him sat on the bench. But also, what kind of fee could he potentially get as well? Like, you look in the Premier League, those top teams, Chelsea have brought in a new keeper this summer. Manchester United have, despite let's not get into Onana's start to the season. Liverpool have got Alisson. City have got Ederson. Vicario, I think his name is, at Spurs has been fantastic so far this season. You look at abroad, your Madrids, they've got Courtois, who granted is injured, but he comes back next season. He's going to be their number 1. You look around Europe's top clubs, I'm not really sure where he goes. Ken, what are your thoughts on this? Because again, Ramsdale, one of their best players last season, fantastic. Started the season well. Mikel Arteta hasn't really come out in the press and said why he's made that change, but he has. What are your thoughts on it, and what do you think the future could potentially hold for Aaron Ramsdale?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think it's alien to a lot of clubs, especially in the Premier League, to have 2 keepers at that sort of level. I think quite often we used to having a clear number 1 and a clear number 2. I think Arteta's trying something a little bit different in the sense that, no, this is a competition for places. You're not going to get in just because you're the clear number 1 and that's it. So in that respect, I think it's quite wise from Arteta because he has got two top quality goalkeepers that he can choose from. Problem with that is that, in my opinion, they should work hard, they should suck it up, and if they deserve to be number 1, they'll be number 1. But the problem is, in the Premier League and the way that the Premier League players' attitudes are these days, shall we say, they're not going to stand for it. If Ramsdale believes if it's his truth that he thinks he should be number one goalkeeper, then he'll chuck his toys out and he won't turn up. I mean, for us, Sheffield United, he refused to turn up for training when the Arsenal move was on. So it's a difficult one. I think if it works out, I think it's good for Arteta because it means he has got that ability to rotate. And if one of them, God forbid, does get injured, then he has got that cover. But I don't think players these days have got that mindset to dig in and say, right, okay, I'm going to fight for my place, like maybe keepers in the past would have potentially had. So it's interesting. We'll see. I think going forward, Ramsdale will probably throw his toys out the pram that they brought Raya in long term and probably force a move elsewhere. But again, where does he go? City's not going to go there. United not going to go there. Liverpool not going to go there. Spurs, I mean, that new keeper for Spurs looks pretty good as well, so he's not going to go there. So that's, the top six are out. Pope for Newcastle's been fantastic. So that's
maybe like even that
away,
the top side in the Premier League, maybe Brighton with Sanchez moving to Chelsea. But again, that's a mate, and then it's
not Brighton business, that though, is it?
Exactly.
That's not Brighton business, is it? I mean, how much is Ramsdale going to be worth on the market at the minute? You'd say at least 50 mil. And Brighton aren't going to, that's not what Brighton do. They're not going to go out and spend 50 mil on Ramsdale. What they're going to do is they're going to find a South American lad for 500k and he's going to be better than Ramsdale. And then they'll sell him to Chelsea for 90 mil. That's what Brighton do. So I'm good. God bless him for it.
It's a great fucking business, isn't it?
Oh, God bless him for it. God bless him for it.
Sam, have you got any thoughts on this? Because again, I mean, Kemp summed it up perfectly there. It is slightly unprecedented. I know in sort of this in the summer when they made that signing, he alluded or hinted at the fact they wanted to take that City approach of having, two really strong people in each position to allow for that depth and rotation. But again, the changes out of nowhere. The fact that Raya's now starting every game is out of nowhere, and it does seemingly look like he sees him as the number one. So a player of Aaron Ramsdale's calibre and potential value, what are your thoughts on what could potentially happen?
I don't like it at all. I think goalkeeper's the one position that's different to every other position in football. I think you want your goalkeeper, you want your clear number one. You don't want any disruptions. We know, I mean, all you've got to do is look at United at a minute and look at what the shit Onana's going through. They've tried fucking about with their goalkeepers. It's massively backfiring at the minute. So for me, I don't like it. I like stability at whoever's wearing number one. Ramsdale's far too good to be a backup. I don't agree with the having one keeper for one set of situations and one keeper for another set and making substitutions as and when you need to. I don't like that at all. I just think you get your number one goalkeeper and then you sign a backup who knows is going to be a backup. So there's no, there's no mistakes or there's no lack of communication. He's signing to be a backup keeper, and I think that's the move you should do. United have always done things like that where they've signed. I mean, thinking back to the likes of Victor Valdez, and they've had, I think they had Lee Camp at one point as well from, Lee Grant.
Sergio Romero was the one, probably the best number two there's ever been.
I'd say so, yeah. And he knew he was number two, and he had his cup runs, and he was ready for whenever, De Gea was injured, and I know I'm using United as an example there, but... I don't like it at all. I think your goalkeeper, you have to have a clear number one for me. You don't want any confusion. I get the competition side of it, but you need a number one goalkeeper, and that, there needs to be no mistake in that for me.
Yeah, definitely. And it'll be very interesting what the next few weeks, and I suppose next couple of months hold, because if Arteta continues to start Raya as we approach that January transfer window, could do the rumours start? But again, like I discussed with Kem, I can't think of a team that I would assume would be at a level that Ramsdale would want to drop down to or could afford to buy him. I really can't think of anyone. That's across Europe. So, yeah, I can't see him being too happy potentially sat on the bench, especially with a major international tournament coming up next year. But anyway, that's football for this week. It is now time for Kempy's Comeback Corner. Took a bit of a sabbatical last week with Kemp in Dublin, and is right-hand man in the segment. Not here as well. So, lads, we've got Fury versus Usyk officially announced. Whether it happens or not, we'll wait and see, but it has apparently been announced. We've got Warrington versus Wood coming up just around the corner in Sheffield this weekend as well. But first of all, I know we're a couple of weeks after it, but give us your thoughts on Joyce versus Zhang 2.
Yeah, and welcome back, everybody, to Kempy's Combat Corner. Zhili Zhang versus Joe Joyce took place a couple of weeks ago now, well, a week and a half ago now. Would like to have covered it a little bit sooner, but as Dawson mentioned, we were on a little bit of a sabbatical for that week, so we will quickly cover it now. I can't 100% remember what we predicted, but I think it finished before we both predicted that it would finish. But we did both predict that Zhili Zhang would finish Joe Joyce in pretty convincing fashion. And Sam, that he did, mate. That he did. What an unbelievable performance from Zhili Zhang, and what a disappointing and slightly worrying performance from Joe Joyce that, to be fair, we could probably see coming.
We definitely see him coming. We said exactly going into the fight. Was there anything after the first fight that changed our minds, that thought it warranted a rematch? Absolutely not. The styles were just completely contrasting, and I'd actually forgot about the southpaw issue as well, and he just did not deal with that southpaw at all. Yeah, I've got a feeling. I think I said about round 11. I thought it'd go the distance, and Zhang would stop him in 11. And I've got a feeling you said 7. And so, like you say, we're both way off. We're way earlier than we thought. I think I definitely expected more from Joyce. The fact that it activated the rematch, thinking, right, all right, then you've maybe learned some lessons. You know how to deal with southpaw. You faced it now. Can you go? And is there anything? And after the first round, I thought maybe he's onto something. He kind of kept his distance. He slowed it down. He kept moving to Zhang's left, and he was trying to keep away from his jab, and I thought, oh, he's doing something. And then he caught one, and in his game plan, they always say, don't you, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face, and that it just went clean out the window, and it was just an absolute carbon copy at first fight. So, yeah, it's exactly what we thought it was going to be. It's a career ender for me, for Joe Joyce. I can't see him coming anyway back now for any kind of title fight or anything like that. I just think if he wants to continue, he's a journeyman from now on. But if I'm being honest, I don't think I want to see him in ring anymore. Looking at his face before the fight, I didn't realise how badly it healed from the original damage that Zhang had caused in fight 1. His eyes still fucked. It's half closed. He's got scarring all around his nose and eyes. It looks like an old bulldog that's been through mill. For me, I think it's time. I know he started late into the pros. He's had a long amateur career, but started late. For me, call it a day, mate. Call it a day. Take your losses. You've earned a bit of money and get out of there, because you just can't look after yourself.
Yeah, and I get that argument. I also do get the argument in the sense that it would still make decent money if he fought against, let's say, for example, a Derek Chisora. I think he'd make decent money if he fought against Del Boy. I think he'd make decent money if he fought against Dillian White. I think that'd be a decent fight, and I think that would draw numbers as well and be a decent little payday for him. Again, if I were to see him on potentially the main event of a particular card, then would I want to see that? Would I buy into that? Probably not. But let's say he's a co-main event type deal.
He's a tasty undercard. He's definitely a tasty undercard.
Yeah. I think him against Del Boy in a co-main event somewhere or something like that. I still think that'd be fairly entertaining, to be honest with you. But who knows where Joe Joyce goes from there? What we do know is that Zhili Zhang is now the mandatory for, I think it's Usyk's WBA heavyweight championship. So we could well see. Yeah, we could well see in the next sort of 18 months. There you go. The fight between either a Tyson Fury or an Alexander Usyk. We could see that against Zhili Zhang. And I think that'd be an interesting fight. I was listening to quite a lot of people talk about it, and I think now, after that fight, for me, Zhili Zhang definitely puts himself 4th on that list of heavyweights, with Fury, Usyk, Joshua, maybe Wilder, and maybe Zhang then 5th, maybe. Where do you see Zhang ranking amongst the heavyweights after that performance against Joe?
Just outside the main. You've said the main bunch there. I'm going to put him. Oh, you know what? I can't. Against AJ, I'm having trouble measuring him up against AJ. I'm looking at Fury and Usyk straight away, 1 and 2 in no particular order, and then, like you say, I kind of want to put him on a par with maybe Andy Ruiz, maybe. Decent boxer who can punch. Either way, regardless of where I put him, I'm really looking forward to that. If that fight does come to fruition and he does end up fighting Usyk, so yeah, I think that'd be a really decent matchup, and yeah, good on him, because he's definitely deserved it. He's absolutely convincingly beaten Joe Joyce, who was, a bit of a, despite his age, a bit of an up-and-comer in the British boxing world, and he's just absolutely put a nail in his coffin there. So, yeah, fair play to Zhang, and looking forward to seeing his next fight.
Yeah, it was definitely a really good performance. As you mentioned, Joyce was trying to kind of avoid that hand that had jabbed him up in the first fight. But unfortunately for him, he went the other way, and then he caught him with his backhand, and that's how he finished the fight. So I think Zhilei Zhang just showing some really good boxing IQ. Zhilei Zhang's record's really, really good. It's 26-1-1, and the only defeat was against Hrgovic. And it was a really controversial defeat on the Andy Ruiz Usyk Joshua undercard for the second fight. So Zhilei Zhang's a real fucking contender in this division. Yes, he is getting older, but you know what? I'd love to see him in a world title fight at some point, because I think he'd give a really good account of himself, if nothing else. Which brings us to, Sam, the announcement. And I say announcement in that kind of sarcastic way because it's Tyson Fury.
Eye roll emoji.
Eye roll emoji, most definitely. But according to Frank Warren and Queensbury Promotions, the historic fight between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk allegedly will take place at some time at the end of this year or beginning of next year in the Riyadh Festival in Saudi Arabia. So Saudi have come in, they've thrown money at the situation as they do everything else, and they seem to have potentially fixed it for now. But Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, the first question I'm going to come to you and ask you, in your mind, in your opinion, does this fight happen?
It's once bitten, twice shy, isn't it? I can't say yeah. I really can't say yeah. No, I'm not saying both. That's unfair on Usyk. Tyson Fury is just a fucker, and he's a bit of an head case, and I don't want to sound disrespectful to mental health and all that, but even mental health aside, before he was, dealing with his depression and all that, it was still a bit of a nutter, and you just can't really trust what he says. And I know this time it's been signed and we've got it on paper, but so fucking what? Who's to say that? I think someone put it in the chat of the week, or someone's put it online, that who's to say that he fights Ngannou soon, he picks up a bit of an injury and all of a sudden he can't fight in December, and it's going to have to be pushed back until April, May next year, and then all of a sudden Usyk can't make that deadline because he's got a mandatory to fight, and all of a sudden it just gets pushed further and further back, and you're thinking, So until I see that stood there, Michael Buffer in the ring and they're about to do the ring walk, I will not believe it until I see that. So for me, I'm going to say no. I don't think it'll happen until it does actually happen. What about you?
Exactly the same. And a lot of boxing pundits, promoters, everybody on TalkSport, everybody online, they're all buying into the fact that it's happening. And I just sort of sit there and think, have you not learned anything from?
Not been paying attention, have they? They haven't
in the last
attention.
2 years, have you not heard? Have you not noticed anything or nothing at all? The Fury Joshua fights that were going to happen and never happened. The Fury Usyk fight that was going to happen then didn't happen. And then Fury
Joshua Wilder, that's no longer going to happen.
That's never going to happen. So yeah, and then Fury fighting against Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou, former UFC heavyweight champion of the world, obviously close to my heart, but Jesus fucking Christ, he's never had a boxing match in his life. So yeah, I can exactly see that scenario coming to fruition, Sam. You've fucking nailed it, mate, in the sense that Fury fights Ngannou, he lays Ngannou out, which he'll definitely do, 100%. He's got a tight hamstring. He's pulled his quad. He's done something. He's broke his hand. He's done something, right? And then, I can't fight in Riyadh season. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to do it at the end of next summer, because we can't do it in the summer because it'll be Ramadan. So we can't do it then. So we'll have to do it at the end of next summer. So Usyk, you gappy teeth, get yourself sorted out for the end of next summer. And Usyk will say, well, no, I'm a fighting champion, which he is. Yeah. We can all agree, I think. Yeah. Everybody with a brain cell that doesn't care about losing Tyson Fury coming on their show and he's scared of him. Anybody that's independent like we are at Loaded Sport can objectively say that Usyk is always fucking game for anything, right?
Yeah.
He even accepted 30% of the split when he's got more belts than Fury, right? To make it fucking happen first time, right? I think we can agree that he'll say, well, no, I'm not waiting. I'm going to fight against Zhang for my mandatory. And then, if we can make it happen, we'll make it happen. And then we'll just keep doing this fucking dance. Fury will want it. Come on, gappy teeth. I'm ready. And at next minute, something will happen and he'll pull out. And again, Fury's a pull-out merchant. It's not just with, I've got this, I've got that, but it's with injuries. It's with, again, suffer mental health myself. I get it completely, but he has pulled out of fights before, and the reasons have been weird sometimes. So I don't believe it until I see it. Frank Warren's fucking full of shit. We've established that in the past. It's signed. Then why have we not got a fucking date, Frank? Do you know what I mean? So it's still too wishy-washy for me. I don't believe it until I see it, Sam. So yeah, absolutely spot on. And yeah, we'll just have to fucking see if it happens. But
correct me if I'm wrong. I learned this by watching the actual Fury documentary. Correct me if I'm wrong. A big fighter like Fury's, your AJ's, your Usyk, on a situation like this where there's two fighters just agreeing to fight each other, you book the venue first, don't you? You normally get the fight date first, and then you find the fighter after. That comes secondary.
It depends who it is. I mean, Floyd Mayweather historically used to, because he was the big money ticket. What Floyd used to do is he used to get fights organised 6 weeks or 8 weeks before they'd happen. He'd know who was fighting 10 or 12 weeks before, but he'd have a number of opponents that were right. Reserve yourself for this date. Floyd might fight you, and then Floyd would decide who he's fighting. They'd only have 6 weeks to prepare.
Right.
Crafty old Floyd would have 12. Bless him. You know, Floyd, he's taking for what he is, but he's a clever bloke. They'd have the arena booked. They'd have the promotion booked. They'd have everything sorted. So it all depends on who's promoting it. It depends on the fighters. It depends on everything. But the fact that Frank Warren is not providing us with the date, the fact that he's not providing us with specifics is just a little bit, for me, again, that coupled with the fact that Fury is about as reliable as fucking Ag starting a podcast on time, I don't believe that it will happen until I see them touch gloves in the middle of the ring. And I can't not. I'm just so sceptical of the heavyweight division at the minute. I just can't not.
So I'm not believing it until the start of the ring walk. You're not even buying it at that point. No. You're waiting until they're actually touching gloves.
Fury could pull out. Until the bell goes, Fury could pull out. So I'm not believing it now. Listen, if we see him both turn up at the arena and they start walking, then obviously then we can start getting excited. But up until then, mate, I'm really fucking not. I'm really not. But what I am getting excited for, mate, is this weekend in Sheffield. It's the Utilita Arena. Shout out. It's Josh Warrington, who's taking on Lee Wood in the battle of Nottingham versus Leeds, and they're meeting in the middle in Sheffield, which is, I think, quite interesting. But like I say, it's taking place at Utilita Arena this weekend. It's an interesting fight, Sam, for many, many reasons. Number one is that these two guys are obviously big domestic stars in terms of British fighters, never crossed paths, never fought each other, even though they're in the same division. They've kind of took different paths to get to where they've got to. But they have got an opponent, a common opponent in Maurizio Lara. And that's kind of all we can look at in terms of the actual comparisons themselves. So it is taking place this weekend. Like I say, it is on Saturday night. It is at the Utilita Arena in Sheffield. I did briefly look at tickets potentially for the event, but I am otherwise engaged on that night. Unfortunately, I am in Sheffield, but not at the Utilita Arena. So, Sam, it's going to be a big domestic fight. It's hopefully going to be a big payday for each of the boys. But yeah, Josh Warrington coming off a defeat, Lee Wood coming off a victory against Maurizio Lara. I don't know how much you've looked into this fight and where you can see it going, but have you seen Josh Warrington or Lee Wood before? Or
not at all, mate. Not at all. I kind of hoping you'd take this fight because I've not watched much of these.
And I know again you are a big sort of proponent of the heavyweight fights, and you do like a nice heavyweight fight. So the fact that you've not watched the featherweight guys before, we're not going to hold that against you here at Kempy's Combat Corner. It's a safe space for all. But yeah, like I say, Maurizio Lara and Lee Wood had that fight in Nottingham last year, where Maurizio Lara, after being outboxed for 6 rounds, did TKO Lee Wood in the end. But then he come back. He beat Maurizio Lara by unanimous decision and boxed his fucking face off, which was an uncharacteristic performance by Maurizio Lara. And the reason I say that is because in the past, Maurizio Lara sparked out Josh Warrington by TKO when Josh Warrington was on a winning streak to end all winning streaks. He then had a rematch with Josh Warrington. He was beating him, but then a cut, unfortunately, ended the fight prematurely, and he never managed to get that one back. Since then, Josh Warrington hasn't been in unbelievable form. Again, he lost against Maurizio Lara. He was undefeated 30-0 at that point, and then a stoppage after Lara got a cut from an accidental clash of heads in their second fight. Defeated Kiko Martinez, but Kiko Martinez was kind of always a fight to kind of get him back into that position. And then he lost against Luis Alberto Lopez by majority decision. So, he went 30-0, and now Josh Warrington's record says 31-2-1. So he's had 4 fights there, and 3 of them he's not won them for whatever reason. So he's not been in the best run of form, best vein of form. Lee Wood, in my opinion, after that performance against Maurizio Lara, absolutely boxed the pants off him. Nobody had done that to Maurizio Lara as far as I was concerned, and thoroughly deserved his victory in May. Again, they did fight in May, the 27th of May, and Josh Warrington's last performance, the defeat against Luis Alberto Lopez, was on the 10th of December last year. So he has not fought for pretty much 10 months when it gets to the fact and gets to the point where they're in the ring fighting. Again, massive domestic fight. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what the matchup's going to look like. It is for Lee Wood's WBA Featherweight Championship. And it's going to be, like I say, a very, very big domestic fight. For me, personally, I think Lee Wood will get the job done. I think he'll get the job done by unanimous decision. I think Josh Warrington hasn't quite looked himself since that first defeat against Maurizio Lara, albeit in COVID, albeit in strange times. But again, I don't think Josh Warrington has looked himself, and you do often see when undefeated fighters get beat, the wheels do start coming off and the confidence kind of wanes at that point. So it will be very interesting to see how he deals with that. But for me, again, I think Lee Wood will win by unanimous decision and get the job done for Nottingham, and take his WBA Featherweight Championship back to Nottinghamshire, down the M1. So it's going to be a very interesting weekend of boxing. It was a great weekend of boxing a couple of weeks ago. We've not even mentioned, Sam, Canelo Alvarez beating Jamel Charlo in a very, very dominating performance where Charlo barely even turned up. So that happened this last weekend as well. It's all over the place here in Kempy's Combat Corner. It's all about the boxing at the moment. But fear not, mixed martial arts fans, because we have got some UFC returning in the not too distant future. And what a trilogy of events we've got coming up. It's UFC 296 next, I believe. I might be wrong. No, that's the next one after that. It's UFC 294 next. It's Islam Makhachev against Charles Oliveira, and that's on the 21st of October. We've then got UFC 295, which is John Jones versus Stipe Miocic, and Alex Pereira versus Yuri Prohaska on the undercard. And then we've got Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington on the 16th of December, the Brit defending his UFC Welterweight Championship of the World. So we have got some unbelievable MMA coming up towards the back end of the year, but boxing is very much the focus here on Kempy's Combat Corner, and obviously we will review it for you all next week, right here on Kempy's Combat Corner.
Episode 72, baby. Aggie, the first ever Formula One race in Qatar taking place this weekend. Sprint race on Saturday. Max Verstappen needs to finish 6th or above, taking 3 points minimum to claim his 3rd Drivers' Championship. Talk us through your thoughts on the race, and at what point it will be pretty much guaranteed that Max will take that crown.
I think from about now we can say it's almost guaranteed that Max Verstappen will be taking the crown this weekend. It's something completely different in Qatar, of course, never raced there before, so it opens up what could be, for them, like a huge scenario, couldn't it? I think we're about halfway, not even 3/4 of the way through the season, and the championship's about to be over. And we've been saying it every week when we've been sat here talking about Formula One in general, about when we talk about Formula One, we talk about how the championship's almost done with Max Verstappen. Can't even look at the screen because of you guys, but also because of, with Red Bull, that kind of stuff. So when it comes to Red Bull, of course, they won it last weekend, didn't they? They've been phenomenal throughout the course of the season. It's heading in towards next season to see just what they're going to do, what other teams are going to do to be able to compete with him. And I think Qatar, for a lot of teams, is just going to be a bit of an eye-opener, a different track, try and adjust and prepare your car for next season. It's like a pre-hit to some sides, isn't it? Because, Constructors already over. I don't see it being that competitive. I think for Red Bull, it's just going to be a case of Max and Checo at the front that are going to be competing together. I don't know what you think on it. we both raced in Qatar, so we've got an idea of what the track's like, of course, on the game.
Yeah, I think I've done a lap and a half on it, mate. So it's quite an open track. It gave me sort of Portugal vibes when I went on it. So a couple of sort of tight corners where if you catch it wrong, you're going spinning. So there's definitely opportunities for mistakes there. But I'll be honest, I don't know if you agree. To be fair, I'm sure you will agree. But knowing that Max only needs to finish 6th or above in a sprint race, it's kind of killing my any kind of excitement for it, because in what scenario is he not going to finish in the top 6 based on what we've seen so far this season? The race at this point is just completely irrelevant because he can win it on the Saturday. So I don't know. Yeah, it does have the potential to be a good race in and of it itself, but at this point in the season, you want 3-4 drivers. Historically, you might get 2 at this point that are really going toe-to-toe for that Drivers' Championship that the Constructors has already done, with Red Bull winning it in Japan in the last race. And again, Max can win it on the Saturday before the race itself even starts. So, yeah, it's hard for me to get quite excited. Obviously, it's hard to comment on exactly what kind of a race weekend it will be because we haven't seen that track before. But I'm sure with it being in Qatar, they would have taken on quite a bit of money for doing it. So whatever happens, I'm sure they'll be happy as a sport and as an organisation.
I want to know what your opinion is, of points being up for grabs in the sprint race. Now, it's a new thing that's been brought in over the last couple of seasons where a sprint race will determine who's going to start where for the actual race itself. But they've started offering points out for the sprint race. That means by the time this race starts, Max could already be champion. What are your thoughts on that side of things? Does it kind of like devalue the actual race itself?
Yeah, I can see why they brought it in to try and, I don't know, engage more people and inject a bit of excitement into a race weekend. But surely the clue there is that if you feel like you have to do that, then the focus in doing that should be in the race itself. So yeah, I'm completely on board with that point. If they're offering points on the sprint, which then takes away the need to care about a race, 100%. But then also, if they've felt the need to put the sprint in the first place, surely that highlights that there's an issue with your format that has been the format for 50 plus years.
Yeah, it kind of changes the rhythm of things. To me, it's all about the race. I didn't mind the sprint race, but I'll tell you something that I think would really throw the track, the drivers, the teams into a bit of disrepute is putting the drivers that are currently at the back of the championship starting the front of the race. Eliminate qualifying already, maybe put in an extra practice session, allow teams to, mess about with the cars a little bit, try and get something that suits them, maybe a bit more competitive, but also eliminate the qualifying and just start with whoever's at the back of the Drivers' Championship at the time starts at the front and vice versa. Just that sort of thing so that, if Max is leading by however many he's leading by, he's got to work harder for it. It's not just about who's got the best car, because you've got to be able to overtake. You've got to have better strategies. There's a lot more that goes into Formula One that people don't get to see because at the moment, and Kemp's right by his comment that he'll not watch Formula One simply because it is whoever has the fastest car wins. If you put them cars at the back, there's a lot more them drivers have got to do than just, I've got the fastest car, so I've won.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, again, just completely agree. And look, it's hard. Like, I know we talk about this because we have a bit of a vested interest in it, but I'm just really, really struggling, like I said a moment ago, to have any kind of excitement. But I suppose we'll do what we always do, put it on paper. It is a new race weekend. It is a new race location. It is a track that we've never seen before in Formula One. It's one that's been built specifically to introduce the F1 into Qatar. So give us your podium spots. And I'm assuming that you're going to say that going into the race on Sunday, Max will already be the latest Drivers' Champion.
Yeah, how can you say that you're struggling to find any sort of enthusiasm or sound excited about it? You're a Red Bull fan. Your driver's about to win the championship. Your constructors have won the championship. How are you still deflated about it?
Because it's different, isn't it? You watch F1 to see exciting races. So Red Bull fan or not, like I was a Red Bull fan because when I was watching it and Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber and all that kind of stuff, they were great to see and there was championship battles. But ultimately, you watch a race to see a race, and one driver just absolutely dominating, and you pretty much know 95% before the race starts who's going to win. It's not a race, is it? It's just watching people have a drive around a track, which is what I don't want to watch. I want to watch a race. So there you go. That answers that for you.
So for me, I'm going to go with, yes, Max is going to be the champion by the time the race starts on Sunday. I think he's going to win the sprint race. I think he's going to win the actual race. I think it's going to be Checo in third, actually, instead of second. I think he's going to get third because he's going to have to fight valiantly to try and keep his title hopes alive, albeit very narrow chances that he's got of actually winning the Drivers' Championship at the moment. And I'm going to go with Lando in second. Let's carry the McLaren rhythm going.
I will go with Max to win the race, having already been crowned world champion. I will go with Carlos Sainz second, and I'll go with George Russell in third to make up for the mistake in Singapore just a couple of weeks ago. So no doubt come episode 72 next week, we'll be talking about Max and not sounding very excited about the fact that he is champion yet again. Because, look, ultimately, I'm an F1 fan before I'm a Red Bull fan. I watched F1 because I wanted to watch races, and I just latched on to Red Bull as a team to support and follow because of I enjoyed watching them race and what they were doing at the time. But ultimately, Formula One is about racing. And that's not it. So, we'll see what happens this weekend. But, Kev, we didn't preview the Ryder Cup because you weren't here last week with you being in Dublin. So, very quickly, mate, a dominant day one for Europe set them up for what ultimately was a relatively comfortable win, all in all. Mudge, a former co-host, was there for the final day, had nothing but phenomenal things to say about it. But as a golf fan, mate, just very quickly give your thoughts on the latest Ryder Cup.
Well, yeah, you mentioned it there. I mean, Europe got off to an absolutely unbelievable start. They were firing on all cylinders on day one. In the end, it ended up being 16.5 to Europe and 11.5 to the USA. But yeah, as you mentioned there, Dawson, on day one, it looked as though play could be finished and Europe could have it completely wrapped up kind of by end of day two, which is unheard of, really. It started very, very brightly with, again, day one Europe pretty much going with a clean sweep. I think it might have been like 7 or 8-1 after day one. The second day, the Americans started making life a little bit more difficult for Europe. And then third day, again, even Stevens. So in the end, America did get back a little bit of pride. But listen, at the end of the day, Jesus Christ, it was an absolute embarrassment for the UFC for the first couple of days. It was a clean sweep, like I say, pretty much on day one. And then towards the back end, USA just left themselves with too much to do. There was a little bit of controversy. Rory McIlroy not quite happy with the gamesmanship, perhaps, by the USA team on one of the greens as well, which always adds a little bit of spice to the Ryder Cup. But listen, if you're a golf fan in the UK or in Europe and you watched it, you were happy after the weekend, you're happy after the Ryder Cup because ultimately, like I say, Europe really did get a big scalp in the 44th Ryder Cup, and again won by 16.5 to 11.5. Next, we'll be going back to the USA, where Europe haven't won it for a very, very, very long time. So we'll just have to see how we get on when we go there. But in terms of golf, moving on from now, pretty much brings to an end the golf season in terms of the actual major tournaments coming up for the rest of the year. And now the countdown's on, unfortunately, to April, where we'll be sitting down, getting his feet up and watching the Masters again, which is also the big one that'll be coming around again. But unbelievable Ryder Cup to watch. I didn't see all of it, but I saw what I could. I was actually playing golf for a lot of it on the Saturday. But yeah, an outstanding Ryder Cup, and fair play to Team Europe for getting the dominant win. We'll keep an eye on golf for the rest of the year, and we'll report when we need to. But the next big golf tournament, as I mentioned, as far as I'm concerned, is the Masters in April. So we'll tuck golf away a little bit until that point, Dawson.
Yes, absolutely, mate. 6 months away, unfortunately. But what can you do? That is just how the golf season works. But yeah, on to darts now, lads. We again another thing that we didn't preview last week with has been a bit lower on heads. But the World Grand Prix is taking place in Leicester this week, with the final due to happen on Sunday evening. And to be honest, it's been pretty much as expected so far. The big names are through. Your Michael Smiths, your Gerwyn Prices, they're both through to the quarterfinals. Due to play tonight, Michael van Gerwen, Peter Wright as well. So as it stands, not really any shocks. It is, of course, one of the only double-in, double-out tournaments of the weekend. Of the tour, should I say? I've watched a few games, and to be honest, I've struggled to enjoy this one a little bit. Like I said, it's took place in Leicester. And when I've been watching, the crowd has been a little bit dead. So darts is one of those games where the crowd investment really makes the sport. And one of the reasons that I mentioned it before, I stopped watching for a little bit, and that was during the pandemic where they were playing in empty arenas. And even with playing fake fan noise, it just wasn't the same. So yeah, it does look like it could go down to the usual suspects in terms of lifting the crowd. The final is on Sunday, but I know you lads haven't really watched it, so it's a bit hard to discuss too much. But I just wanted to put it out there because we are, as Kemp said, they're putting golf to bed. We are now bringing in the darts. World Grand Prix is back. We've had a couple of months off in terms of major tournaments after the Premier League finished in the UK Open, but we're not too far away from World Championship season. And I got Michael Smith last year, so it's time to knuckle down, get the readers on, and really take note of who's performing on the TV tournaments and, of course, on the usual tour tournaments as well, as we gear up for the World Championship around Christmas time and put out our predictions again. But yeah, World Grand Prix is taking place at the moment this week, as I mentioned. Final to take place on Sunday, and at the moment, no real shock. So we'll no doubt announce a winner this time next week, and maybe we might have a new winner from the card. But tonight, Van Gerwen versus Chris Dobie, which should be an absolute belter.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think this tournament, obviously, you always like to win a tournament as a darts player, as a sportsman. You like to get, or a sports person, you like to get a trophy in your cabinet, as it were. Argue being a Chesterfield fan, mate, you don't know much about that. But yeah, you've got to look.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Yeah, shut up. You've got to look at this tournament in the sense that you're counting down to, like you said there, Dawson, the World Championships. That's what this tournament for me is all about. We're a couple of months out from the World Championships, and for me, if I'm a darts player, if I'm an athlete coming into this kind of time of the season, if I don't win it, I'm not going to be fucking devastated. But what I would like to see is that fluidness, that solidness, and ramping back up now into tournament season and potentially putting in a really good performance rather than actually focusing on the winning as much, if that makes sense. I think what I'd be doing is, if I was a darts player, is I'd be looking at my checkouts. Obviously, it is double in, double out, so it is a little bit more difficult in that respect. But I'd be looking at my checkouts, I'd be looking at my average scoring, and I'd be setting myself parameters and benchmarks kind of on the uptake, on an upward swing coming up towards World Championships, because obviously that's the one that we all want to win. So yeah, it's exciting. It's ramping up towards the Christmas period, and yeah, how scary is it that we're nearly at the Christmas period again? But hey, what can you do? What can you do? It's dart season, and that's we've got to take that away. So looking forward to seeing what we make of it.
Absolutely, mate. It's the best time of the year, and it goes as quickly as it comes, unfortunately. But yeah, can't wait now. The tournaments will start coming thick and fast, so we can bring darts back as a regular feature on Loaded Sport. But it is NFL time, and very much like me and Aggie leave Kemp and Sam to talk about the latest in boxing, very much like Kemp and Sam leave me and Aggie to discuss the latest in Formula One, it is now time for me to step away as Aggie leads the chat with Kemp on Seahawks versus Giants from week 4 of the NFL. So, lads, they are your teams. Aggie, take it away on your thoughts on the result and the performance of the Seattle Seahawks and the New York Giants.
Yeah, it was a very big win for us. Very enjoyable to watch. I managed to see through the first half before falling asleep, but I think by that point the game was already done. I think the first couple of drives, the Giants, I think on the first drive actually had a 4th and 1 within field goal range and opted to go for it. And then they just didn't seem like they were getting much going on offense at all. Saquon Barkley as their running back is certainly a big piece that they're missing because Brady couldn't get much going. Dan Jones seemed lost in the pocket. In fact, even when he was getting out of the pocket, he was getting absolutely ruined by a lot of our defensive players. Devin Witherspoon showing up and had the best game he's had in his career, obviously in the NFL, set a couple of records as well. So yeah, I think it's very promising from our side of things. I do have to still keep myself narrow-minded and think, look, it was the Giants. They've not been informed. They've been struggling in a lot of areas, but a win's a win at the end of the day. And we can now go into the bye week at 3-1, which is obviously much better than it could have been, considering the fact that we lost to the Rams in the opening game of the week. On offense, Gino got injured. Drew Lock came in and he didn't look like he'd missed a beat as well. I think he played really well. I think got 180 yards during the time before Gino came back. We didn't even use Kenneth Walker that much in the first half. A lot of it was through Zach Charbonnet, DK, Lockett. We all just looked in general on form, and I think it is a bit worrying from Kemp's perspective. Obviously, he'll tell us more in a minute about from a Giants side of things after the promise that they put up getting into the playoffs last year. But from us, I think we're absolutely on point. We just stopped them at every opportunity they had, and I think in areas they might have helped us look better and been the masters of their own downfall. I don't know, Kemp, if you've seen many of the highlights.
Yeah, I saw the highlights, but it was passive, I think, more than anything else, rather than actually taking much of an interest. As you can appreciate, it was probably very, very painful watching for me. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head, and Dawson said it before many, many times, and so have many people when it comes to sports and life in general. It's the hope that kills you. And last season, the Giants definitely gave me a lot of hope. Dayball came in, transformed the team, it would seem, Daniel Jones's form. Before that, it was a very, very average, if not quite poor quarterback, and hadn't adapted to the league and hadn't justified us taking him in the first round a few years ago when we did. And I was very not happy about it, but we'll move on from there. But yeah, it just seems as though all that good work seems to have been undone. And again, yeah, you mentioned there, Adam, we did have a couple of big inactives, one being Saquon Barkley, as you mentioned, another one being Andrew Thomas, one of our best tackles, but he was the only guy on our offensive line that was inactive for the game. And the offensive line, again, like it has been every single game this season, was completely not there, just gone. And the way we were effective last season, the way that we did as well as we did, is that, you know, Jones had time. He was given time by that offensive line, and then he would make good decisions. He'd make good passes. He didn't actually throw the ball away that many times last season. And the good things with DJ as well is that he can use his legs quite well, and he's got good pocket presence, and he can kind of sniff out runs and first downs, actually, when a lot of people and a lot of other players probably wouldn't be able to see them. But his statistics so far this season and this last game, Adam, they don't suggest that he's the same player he was before he got this contract, which is the worst thing to happen to your NFL team. We wanted to give Daniel Jones the franchise tag, and we wanted to pay Saquon Barkley last season. Unfortunately, it had to be flipped on its head because Saquon Barkley wasn't going to accept that, unfortunately. So we've had to tag Barkley, and then his status next season is going to be completely up for grabs. And then Daniel Jones, we've offered him a $40 million deal over 4 years, I believe it is, $160 million, which for the quarterback of
crazy.
Daniel Jones' caliber,
absolutely crazy.
It's fucking crazy. But, you know, again, we've been having this conversation in our chats. As you know, Sam, he showed such improvements last year that surely on that trajectory, if he'd have carried it on the way that he was last year into this season, maybe it wouldn't have been worth it. But would we have been raising our eyebrows as much as we are because he started badly?
But last year was the outlier, wasn't it? In his whole NFL career, that last year was the outlier. If you play all his years out in the NFL, that sticks out like a sore thumb, that 1 year. And to pay him on the basis of 1 year when you've got a back catalogue that says it plays otherwise, for me, you've already got the evidence in front of you. Granted, I don't think you have much choice. I don't think you have much choice other than, well, maybe you did. I think maybe if you could have let him go and potentially tanked and gone for another one this year, you're not going to be able to do that now.
Or we go for a free agent in the summer. I think was Garoppolo up for grabs, and
yeah, it was
a couple of other names where we could have paid them and potentially paid them either the same or maybe a tiny bit more than DJ on a shorter term deal. But carry on. Sorry.
No, that'll pretty much it. I'm just spitballing. I did see. I'm watching Good Morning Football earlier, and I think it was one of the lads brought up a very good point. The NFL Coach of the Year award. It's a little bit of a poison chalice at the minute, and obviously Brian Daboll is the current holder of the Coach of the Year from 2022 season. And then they listed up the names of the previous couple of winners in there, and it just shows winning that award. It's not the best thing because if you're going to win that award, you'll come into a bad situation, really, and you're expected to turn it around. Brian Daboll won it last year. Vrabel won it the year before. Vrabel's turned out to be a decent coach, but the Titans are pretty wishy-washy. Kevin Stefanski with the Browns the year before that. John Harbaugh with the Ravens, haven't done anything since then. And then Matt Nagy before then with the Chicago Bears. So it's just shit after shit when you look down that list. Yeah. Sean McVay's the one before then, 2017. Sean McVay, and obviously he's now got a Super Bowl ring, so he's pretty much the only one out of all that lot that can, hold his head high. I mean, they did go all in that season, but yeah, Coach of the Year was just an interesting thing that I've seen that Brian Daboll's now the current Coach of the Year, and he's having the same struggles that everyone else seems to be having when they win that award.
Yeah, it seems strange that is the case, but we can blame the offense, we can blame Daniel Jones, we can blame the offensive line, and we definitely need to blame all of those guys because they're not performing to the level that they certainly did last season. Even when Saquon Barkley was fit and fiery, it doesn't look the same. It just something seems off, and it's really, really strange, and I can't put my finger on it. I mean, 2 fumbles this last weekend for DJ, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns as usual for him so far this season. But the problems go a lot deeper than that. We conceded 40 points against the Dallas Cowboys, 28 points against the Cardinals, who they've got Dobbs as their quarterback. He was a fucking career backup. He was on some practice squads until recently.
But he did beat Dallas.
Points up against us, and that's the crazy thing about the NFL. But 28 points against him when in the first week, in week 1, he didn't really do much. 24 points that we conceded against the Seahawks, in the last game, 30 points against the San Francisco 49ers. We've conceded a lot of points and we're not putting up points, and that's just fucking disastrous for any NFL team. So I don't want to get too scared and too worried after 4 games, but it's very difficult not to because we look really, really poor. The offensive line looks terrible, non-existent. DJ's not making good decisions. But Barkley's not looking good, and it's his last year, and then he's going to be free as a bird because we're probably not going to be able to pay him what he wants. The defense looks like a shambles. I thought last year was going to be a sea change in being a Giants fan, lads, but doesn't seem like it's going to be, unfortunately. I think I'm doomed to a few more years of shit. But what I hope we don't do is I hope we don't fire Shane and Daboll, because I do think long term they will be good for the New York Giants franchise, and I do think they will get us to where we need to be, but it's quite obvious that we need a bit of a rebuild.
Aggie, we're going to jump in there.
Oh, wait, mate. Yeah, but he's kind of answered the question for me. I was going to ask him his thoughts on the reactions to the coaching perspective. So basically what's happened on there is there was a situation on 4th and 1 on their first drive that was in clear field goal range, and they went for it. They failed. We got the ball back. There was an opportunity in their own side on 3rd and 11, and despite the nightmare time they was having, they opted to run, which then made it 4th and I think 13 at the time. So on the back of that, there was a lot of booing aimed towards the coaching decisions. And you kind of answered my question there by saying they don't get sacked. But your thoughts on like the booing from the fan base towards the decision making of Daboll and the other coaches?
Just before Kemp answers that, just a bit of perspective on that 3rd and long run call. Whereabouts on the field was they?
Their own half.
Yeah, I can kind of forgive that.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's one of them, Aggie, where if it works, then Daboll's praised for being a genius. It didn't work, and he's not got the players to do that. And I think what Daboll is kind of still thinking is that he's still got the same team and the momentum from last season. If he made that play call last season, the chances are it might have worked. It probably would have worked. There were a lot of decisions like that where we're at 4th and 1 in weird positions where it worked. But this season, I can't put it down to the coaching staff. I can't, because the decisions they made last season improved us so much so that Sam said they've all got that poison chalice. So it's the personnel on the field for me, and unfortunately the heads need to roll. And if things don't change very, very quickly, the first head that needs to roll is DJ. But one positive I have got is I mentioned at the start of the podcast and revealed the jerseys that I'd purchased for you boys. I did get a Thibodeau jersey, which is a really nice jersey. It's the most recent jersey that I've got, and I think he's one of our shining stars on defence, and hopefully he can improve a little bit from his start to the season. But I've also got what I think is possibly my favourite jersey that I've ever bought, and it's very, very special to me as a New York Giants fan.
So nice.
It's number 56. It's Lawrence Taylor. It's the 1990 New York Giants jersey from Super Bowl 25. So, yeah, I mean, it's an absolute beaut. This is the only good thing about the New York Giants at the minute, is that I've purchased this jersey and they've allowed that to happen. But apart from that, it's pretty fucking miserable. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to put myself on mute, and I'm going to cry myself to sleep.
That's absolutely fair. One other result from this weekend that's going to lead us into the weekend preview. A titanic battle in the AFC, and specifically the AFC East, as Miami Dolphins travelled to Buffalo to take on the Buffalo Bills. There's been many conversations over the last few months and the last couple of years about what the Buffalo Bills are capable of. Is Josh Allen the real deal? Can he get it done in the big important games? And we know the start that Miami Dolphins have had to start the season, and they have looked at a front runner in the AFC. But Buffalo Bills, 48-20 winners against the Miami Dolphins, a dominant win as they head to London this weekend, which we will get into very shortly as we preview week 5. But just to close off week 4, Buffalo 48, Miami 20. We were only discussing a couple of weeks ago, within the last couple of weeks' episodes, if Miami are a serious and genuine threat within the AFC. And Sam, I'll come to you first on this. With that result, what do you think that does for the landscape of the AFC?
It's a statement win. As you say, it's the Dolphins are probably the hottest team in the league, bar the 49ers. And they've come in and the Bills have taken care of business very, very nicely. Questions all around the Bills and Josh Allen, as you say, but they've more than answered that. Home field, Dolphins never really seem to travel well to Buffalo. But I think there was a little bit of optimism in the Dolphins camp going into this one, because if you remember I think it was the wild card game last year, the Dolphins went into Buffalo and lost by 3 points with that third string quarterback. They'd lost Tua, obviously, without for the year. Then they lost the backup, and they'd got the third string quarterback, and they only lost by 3. And they gave it a hell of a count of themselves. And everyone was saying if Tua was fit, they probably would have won that. So I think they had a lot of confidence going into that. And the Bills have just said, no, this is our gaff. You're still not going to win, regardless of who's your quarterback. And they've stomped all over him. So it's a hell of a win for Buffalo. I think they needed it. Just looking at the table now. The American, 3-1. If they lose that, it's 2-2 in a division with the Dolphins. The Dolphins would leapfrog them and take full control of that division. But no, they got the win, and the Buffaloes sit top.
Absolutely, mate. And Aggie, I'm going to come to you, mate, to open up week 5 preview. I know we spoke about I mentioned their Bills coming over this weekend to London for the second London game of the season. But before we get to that, we've, of course, got Thursday night football as the Bears face the Washington Commanders. And
dumpster bowl.
Yeah, we mentioned a couple of weeks ago when you said who's been the most surprising team. Washington did get a shout out for their now 2-2 start. But the Bears, look, we spoke about the Bears enough in our group chats with Tina being a Bears fan, but they are on the verge of having their worst start since 1997. If they lose tonight against Washington, they will be 0-5 for the first time since the year I mentioned there, 1997. So a very, very long time. So we'll very quickly go around the room. I don't think at this point we need to delve too deep into the teams themselves, but of course we like to put our names to predictions. So Aggie, Washington Commanders, Chicago Bears, who do you think wins and by how much?
I think Washington by 3. I think the Bears did show a bit of promise against, albeit the Broncos, and no team should ever go up by that amount and then throw it away. So I think they're going to struggle to see it through. Defense isn't too good for them at the moment, but I think the Commanders will see it through by 3.
Fair. Kemp?
Yeah, I actually think the fact that the Bears threw away that lead will mean that they are going to suffer. I think their confidence will be absolutely shot. So I think the Commanders by 10. And I think it will be by 10, but I think it will be even more dominant than the scoreline potentially suggests.
Interesting. Sam, are you going to jump on the Bears after your pre-season predictions, or are they dead and buried?
No, I think I'll back them. I think I'm going to back them for this one. I think it's opposite to what Kemp says. I think this is going to be a very close, very high-scoring game. Both defences haven't turned up at all this year, which is more of a bad look on Washington than it is on the Bears. The Washington have stacked that defence with first-round picks, and they just haven't shown up at all so far this season. They're getting run all over. I think they've got one of the worst run defences in the league, and I think this will be a really close shootout, actually. But I do have the Bears just about winning, just giving Tina that little bit of hope, just so next week after it just crushes them again.
Well, you've cursed them now, so we'll see this and absolutely hate you for it, backing them. So I'll go with a Washington win by touchdown, and I agree with Kemp, actually. I don't think the score difference will be massive, but I think the on-field performance will be more dominant. Washington, as I said at the start of this, have been quite surprising this year. Sam Howell has been more than a competent quarterback. Brian Robinson at running back as well has performed really well. So I think they'll be relatively comfortable on field, but the scoreline won't necessarily suggest that. So yeah, Washington by a touchdown tonight. The next game to preview is the second London game of the season. Jacksonville Jaguars off the back of a relatively comfortable win against the Atlanta Falcons this previous Sunday at Wembley move across London to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium to take on the aforementioned Buffalo Bills in what should be a big game. And I'm sure a lot of people would have had this penciled in as a big, big, big statement AFC game at the start of the season. So we're very lucky to have it hosted in the UK and at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So Jacksonville Jaguars getting their season back on track with a comfortable win last Sunday. Very used to London and the surroundings and what that travel and everything brings. Buffalo, like you said, Sam, a huge statement win against the Miami Dolphins. So, Sam, we'll come to you first. Who do you see taking the win in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium? Sunday, 2:30 p.m. kickoff.
I think it's a fascinating game, this one. Just the whole Jags staying over in London 2 weeks in a row, never been done before by any football team. So you'd feel they're nice and acclimatised. There shouldn't have been any jet lag whatsoever. They're nice and fresh going into the game. They've had the tours of London. They've done all the things they wanted to do, all the touristy things, and it's game time again. Bills, again, just coming off a unbelievable victory against the Dolphins. You can't help but think they're going to be full of confidence, but they do have that working against them, the fact that they are coming into London, and that can kind of disrupt their schedule. So I am going to say the Bills. I am going to say the Bills win this one. I think it's going to be a very, very close game. I think the Jags are going to push them all the way, and I think Bills will win by 3.
I will go next. I'm going to agree with you and disagree with you. I'm going to take the Bills, but I'm going to have them winning by 2 touchdowns. I think with where they're located, it's not necessarily a long flight compared to, the distance they might have to travel to, say, go to Miami to face Dolphins within their division and everything else. So I think they'll be relatively used to the amount of travel they'll have to give, and I do think that is a big momentum swinger in the Jags. It was a comfortable win on Sunday, but it wasn't exactly a dominant one. Atlanta were about as bad as they were good. So, yeah, I'm going to take the Bills by 2 touchdowns, 14 points at Tottenham Hotspur on Sunday. Aggie, who have you got winning at Tottenham this Sunday?
The Bills, I'm going to stick with what you and Sam have said. It's not going to be... I think it's just going to be one score. I don't think it's going to be an absolute annihilation. I think, like you've said, the Jags do have a bit of... They've kind of adjusted to the time difference, that kind of stuff now as well, haven't they? So they've had the chance to enjoy themselves, like Sam said. They're now ready to take care of business, then go back to Jacksonville. But I think the Bills are just going to be too strong. They're going to be riding that wave after beating the Dolphins so successfully. To begin with, that game was a bit of a shootout, wasn't it? Just back and forth touchdowns. And then the Bills just went into second gear and stopped a very, very strong Dolphins offense. And I think if you get that same sort of Bills defense, it'll be difficult for the Jags to mount any sort of offense, and it'll see the Bills to win. So I'm going to say That's 7 points.
7 points. Ken, are we on a rare occasion going to get a full house of all 4 of us sticking on the same side, or are you going to lone wolf it and give the Jacksonville Jaguars some hope?
No, I would absolutely love to give TK and his boys some hope, but unfortunately I'm going with the Buffalo Bills. I've said it before, say it again. Josh Allen, the Bills in the regular season, they're one of the teams to beat. They always have been, and I think they will be this weekend in Wembley as well. But unfortunately, towards the playoffs, that's when they kind of fall away. But we are still on week 5, so there's plenty of time for the Bills to do what they do in the regular season, and I believe they will do that this weekend, and I believe they will beat the Jags by... I'm going to stick with the same score difference as I did the first game, by 10.
That's absolutely fair. And the final game we're going to preview for week 5 of the NFL, the main event of the weekend, not the last game, Sam, unfortunately, the true main event on paper of the weekend. Yes, granted, the Packers are the last game of the weekend on Monday Night Football, but the game before that is Sunday Night Football, an 8:20 kickoff on the East Coast of America, a 1:20 kickoff on Monday morning over here. It is the Dallas Cowboys, the 3-1 Dallas Cowboys, traveling to the Levi Stadium to take on the San Francisco 49ers, who have been phenomenal in their first 4 games of the season. So I'm going to assume that we're all going to pick the San Francisco 49ers, but we'll go around the room just in case there is anyone that fancies Dallas getting an upset victory and continuing their fine start to the season. And Aggie, I will start with you.
I am going to go with San Francisco 49ers. I think that offense is ridiculously strong. I know I said at the beginning that we'd win the NFC West, but maybe I did underestimate the Niners a little bit. They're just incredible.
A little bit? You underestimated them a little bit?
Yeah.
You underestimated him a lot, mate.
Nah, just a little bit.
That was a bold prediction from you. That was your best bold prediction because the rest of them weren't very bold.
Well, of course. No, I'm going to go with San Fran to get the win by a comfortable. I'm going to go with 10 points just so that Kemp has to go for something different this time round. And I feel like part of me feels like I have to go with it just because last week I also said that I felt Brock Purdy was an outside shot for MVP.
Absolutely fair, mate. Kemp, do you want to come back? I'll let you have the chance to come back on that while you've got the chance.
Yeah, well, what a shame that I'd gone for something and now I can't go for it. San Francisco 49ers by 10. Shut the fuck up. That's what I'm going with. Yeah, you mentioned there, Adam, to be fair, best shout you've made all day, Brock Purdy, could be a shout for MVP. Against the Arizona Cardinals, lads, this is fucking staggering to me. 21 attempts, 20 completions. They completed 20 of his 21 passes. That, for me, it's not loads of passes, but Jesus fucking Christ, it's accurate. And when you've got McCaffrey in the backfield, when you've got the weapons, when you've got the defense that the San Francisco 49ers have got, it's a scary team. And you wouldn't be shocked if I saw them with a Lombardi trophy at the end of the season. So, for me, San Francisco 49ers by 10. Cowboys have had a good start, but I think the 49ers will be too much.
I will take over off the back of that because historically Cowboys have been America's team, but recently they've certainly been the joke team and the meme team of the NFL, and they at some point come unstuck. And I do think that week 5 is the first week in which we start to see that. San Francisco, phenomenal start.
Seen it in Arizona, to be fair.
Very fair point. But I think this is a matchup against the big boys, something they could potentially face in the playoffs, and there's a gap between the two. And I fancy San Francisco winning by 17 in that primetime game on Sunday night.
Wow, huge. Just to correct you, it's not the biggest matchup of the week. The biggest matchup of the week is Jair Alexander going up against Devontae Adams. That is a fucking mouth-watering thing that I would love to watch.
Well, I'll tell you what, Len. Give us your prediction and then give us your preview of that matchup and that game.
So I'm going to stick with Niners. I think the Cowboys can play a little bit soft at times when they come up against a real team, and the Niners are just well drilled from top to bottom. I do think Brock Purdy, is the perfect product of a system QB. I think Shanahan is scheming him to absolute perfection.
Can I just say they said the same about Tom Brady? At what point, and I'm not saying that I necessarily disagree with you, but again, for the sake of arguments, you can roll your eyes, Kemp, all you want, but for the sake of argument, at what point do we give Brock Purdy his flowers?
Well, he's not even won a fucking Super Bowl yet. So if you compare him against Tom Brady,
I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that it was always Brady was the system and blah blah blah. And now, in hindsight, it's not. So Brock Purdy, Kemp said there, phenomenal completion rate, accurate. Yes, he might have only thrown 21 passes, but he completed 20. So at what point do we start to give him credit and not just it's the system, it's this, it's that?
He needs a few more years, yeah. He's only played about fucking 8 games, to be fair. So it definitely needs at least 3 seasons before we give him any kind of flowers like that. He's playing really well, and I'm not going to slag him off whatsoever, but I think I'm going to guess of his 21 throws, at least 11 of them will probably be on the line of scrimmage and screen passes to his running back. So, these are all short to intermediate throws that he's making, and he's making them. So, he's playing really well, and I don't want to take anything away from him, but I think MVP shouts from me are a little bit early. I don't think he's putting the team on his back. I think it's more Shanahan and scheming, and the run game is playing off the run game. So yeah,
just to point out, we averaged 14 yards per completion, and a lot of the throws were, intermediate throws, that kind of thing as well. Just again to sort of put some perspective and some credit on his name.
I'm not sure about that. I think you just pulled that one up.
Yeah, I think
just got it up there.
I think it's usual case, isn't it, where, we've already talking about World Darts Championship in December. I'm looking forward to talking about Van Gerwen, Aspinall, Michael Smith, whoever else it might be. But then I'm looking forward to Dawson coming in and saying, at what point are we going to talk about Tom Brady? Fucking leave him alone, man. Fuck me.
I'm waiting for that. Yeah, I do think...
I mean, it's not what I said at all, but yeah, well done.
I do think he's
At what point are we going to talk about Tom Brady?
At what point are we going to talk about Brock Purdy and him being the reason?
And then
yeah,
what?
exactly. And I was making the comparison. At no point
did
I say what you just said. You're an idiot, mate. You're an idiot.
Yeah, shut the fuck
up,
mate.
Keep
Tom Brady's name out your fucking mouth. He's done. He's dead.
No.
Fuck him.
Wowza, Rooney. I'm glad I said that there. Yeah, I think he's a system QB. But, you know, he's taking his chances and fair play to him. I do have the Niners winning. I think it'll be quite high scoring on both accounts. But I'm going to go Niners by 4. And for the Monday night game, Green Bay travel to the desert and go to Las Vegas, play the Raiders. I do think we'll bounce back and I do think we'll beat them. Not sure what's going to happen with the quarterback situation. I know Garoppolo's currently going through a concussion protocol. So he's obviously got that extra day that he can recover from. Probably going to start, but you know, I don't think Garoppolo's been that good anyway to start the season. And Devontae Adams has, to be fair, I should know because I've got him in my fantasy team. Has been raking it in for me. So yeah, the matchup I'm most looking forward to this entire weekend is a game that I'm not even. Excuse me, is a game that I'm not actually going to be even watching, and it's Jair Alexander against Devontae Adams. Yes, give me what you say.
So for the last 4 days, when I've been looking at the fixtures for this week, I've obviously seen Packers versus Raiders as Monday Night Football, and I've been thinking to myself, why are they playing him again? That makes no sense. Really, really confusing me. And it's literally just this moment clicked because I was thinking they played Derek Carr before. I was thinking they'd already played the Raiders, but he's moved to this, and it was the Saints that he played. And it's just honestly for the last 4 days or so, it's been confusing the life out of me, and it's just clicked now that Carr moved and it was the Raiders you were playing. The Saints you were playing. Now you're playing the Raiders. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there because I'm really happy that that's just clicked. And I wasn't confused. I was just wrong.
Yeah, completely wrong to be fair. Yeah, so I expect us to win this one. I think we're going to go in. I think Raiders played the Chargers, I think, last weekend. I mean, I were in Skegness, so I didn't really see much of Red Zone or anything, but I know that they sacked him a hell of a lot of times, and I think Khalil Mack got 6 sacks on his own or something like that. So I think you're looking at your Rashawn Garriers and this boy, Lucas Van Ness. I think they've got potential to have a bit of a field day. We need to sort our O-line out, though. That's an absolute must. We played against the Lions, obviously, last Thursday night, and we was absolutely atrocious. I watched it till half-time, and they just ran up a score of something like 24-3 or 24-0 or something like that. So I turned it off, and it looked like they would put up a decent performance in the second half and put some points on the board, but the game was already over at that point. So we need to sort the O-line out because it was decimated last week. And I think if we can do that and get some pieces back, I think we should be beating the Raiders.
That's fair. I thought I'd let you get that in after you were very upset about me calling the Sunday Night Football game the main event of the week. But
I was very.
Sam, you chucked out the question the other week about surprising teams, and a question that I just very quickly wanted to put out there. Again, too early to tell. We're only 4 weeks in, but I'm just going to want to give you all the opportunity to potentially change your pre-season pick for the Super Bowl. I've got the San Francisco 49ers. I had them as the runners-up in our predictions, losing to the Bengals. But with the Bengals start, I can't, in all good conscience, stick with them as of now. So I'm going to move the chair to San Francisco and say, based on what we've seen 4 weeks in, I think they'll lift the Lombardi Trophy in Feb. So I'm going to give you all the opportunity to potentially change your preseason pick as well. And Aggie, I'll start with you, mate. Are you sticking with your preseason pick, or after 4 weeks has another team caught your eye?
I can't even remember who I went for as my pre-season pick. I just find it quite funny that you want to change who you've gone for. So you've thought, I know what I'll do. I'll let everybody else have a go to make it look less bad on me.
All right, so who are you picking?
There we go. Chiefs to be Eagles? San Fran?
Yeah.
Eagles? No, I'm sticking with it. Stick with
it. Are you sticking with that out of pure stubbornness, or because you think the Chiefs are in a position where they're going to win the whole thing?
Bit of both.
Okay, there we go. So it's you're stubborn. Sam?
I can't remember our pick, mate. See, if you were going to do this, I thought you'd have come with the information on who we've got and who we can.
I mean, it's your pick, mate. I thought you'd remembered. So just right now.
No, I went aware that I was going to fucking change them, was I? So I'm not really giving it much thought. It's you that's fucking throwing curveball in.
All right. Well, it doesn't matter either way, does it? Just right now, based on what you know, what you've seen, who do you think wins the Super Bowl trophy? And we'll worry about if it's different later.
San Fran.
It's different. So there you go. You've changed.
So you did know who it was then?
You
but I know where it's San Fran.
Unbelievable.
No, I don't know. I couldn't tell you it was, but I know it went San Fran.
You're upsetting everyone today. You are.
I told you earlier it was too much love going on in the intro.
But how do we factor Tom Brady into this conversation? That's the question.
He grew up watching San Fran.
Outstanding from you there. Yeah, I believe I went with the Eagles to beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I think. And I am going to say that I'm going to stick with it. Not because I'm being stubborn, and I think the 49ers are definitely... If I saw them in the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think the Eagles this season have been doing something that's quite impressive, actually. And you see this from other sports, potentially. In the mark of champions, they've been winning quite ugly. They've not been as good as they were last season, I don't think, the Eagles, but they've still been winning all their games. So for me, I think in the trenches, which is when, that's a Super Bowl, it don't get any more in the trenches than that. I think they've learned from their experience. They've got an unbelievable roster. They're still winning games, maybe not as comfortably as they were before, but I'm going to stick with the Philadelphia Eagles to win the Super Bowl.
Just on that, sorry, I thought you'd done there. Just on the back of your Eagles prediction there, have you seen their running over the next couple of games?
Mate, not even couple, like genuinely the next 5 to 7 games.
Yeah, it's a lot of people, as you've rightfully said, a lot of Eagles fans are actually saying that they're not impressed with how they're playing and they're just getting these wins by hook or by crook. But you've got to stack these wins nice and early. They don't, win ugly. It's still a win at the end of the day. But just coming up, they've got the Jets coming up soon, which you'd fully expect them to beat them. Then after that, it's the Dolphins, it's the Commanders, then it's the Cowboys, Chiefs, Bills, Niners, Cowboys, Seahawks, Giants, Cardinals.
Stop before Seahawks. That was the tough bit.
Yeah, there's no question. Listen, there's no question that obviously they've got a very, very tough schedule in that time period. But you know what? They're not going to go all season undefeated. I think it's very, very difficult to do so, as Eli Manning proved. But yeah, it's difficult, but that's the NFL, and I do think they've got enough about them, like I say, winning ugly to get the job done. So I am going to stick with the Eagles, but yeah, if they start struggling and to pick up results and the 49ers just go from strength to strength, visitors later in week 7 or 8, and I might be moving that chair alongside you, Dawson.
We'll see. I'll ask you again next week, but that is episode 71 in the book. So let's very quickly, lads, discuss weekends. Sam, I'm going to start with you, mate. Last weekend, you were in Skegness. Is it a pretty chilled one, or have you got activities planned for this weekend?
No, not off the top of my head. I'm hoping for a nice chilled weekend where I can just do fuck all, recharge the batteries, watch a bit of NFL on the Sunday. It's my favourite day of the week at the minute. But yeah, absolutely no plans at all, and I'm quite thankful for that. I tell you what, actually, we have been paid today, haven't we? So I may go out, fancy going out for a meal or something like that. But other than that, it's going to be a pretty quiet one. You know what? I've not been to Hickory's for a while, and I'm kind of fancying Hickory's. So yeah, watch this space. I might even go in with my new jersey on because it's a bit of an American theme into it.
At G-Nev. I love every bit of the sound of that. Kev,
I might drop your new jersey around, and you can decide which one you want to go in.
Is it?
At G-Nev again. Get him in. Gary Neville on the next listener lock in. Kev, back from Dublin. You mentioned earlier golf season is over now in the professional world. Have you still got time to fit a round or two in? Or what's happening in your world this weekend?
Yeah, in the personal world, mate, this is where the hard work begins, playing golf. This is when you get over the winter, you get your woolly hat on, your coat on, and you get whacking balls at the driving range and getting practice in for next season. This is when you start laying the groundwork for your golf game in 2024. I have got a round of golf booked in Saturday morning, so that'll start my weekend nice and early. I think it's 7:10 on Saturday morning, as the usual tea time.
It's just disgusting, isn't it?
Recent events, but that's the tea time. Saturday evening, I am going to the Dogs for the father-in-law's stag do, which is going to be good. Again, I'm not drinking, so I will be driving back. It will be very sensible, but I'm looking forward to potentially losing a little bit of money on the hounds, so I'm looking forward to that. Sunday, I am going out on a bike ride, which I'm looking forward to, getting back on the road bike, which is good. And then Sunday evening, I will be watching the NFL, having a Sunday dinner, and getting ready for the week coming up.
Sounds good, mate. Sounds good indeed. Aggie, you've booked yourself off a week off from your new commentary venture to be picked up, and we will, of course, discuss that in episode 72 on what game you'll be commentating on. So, seeing as you've booked yourself a week off, what have you got planned this weekend?
It's next weekend I've got off. It's Phoebe's 5th birthday, so it's next weekend I've got off. This weekend I've got Everton versus Bournemouth. at
Oh,
3
I thought
o'clock.
it was next weekend. My bad.
Nope, 7th, Everton, Bournemouth. So it's either going to be 10 apiece or 0-0 because both teams are equally shit. So it should be good to watch.
Next
But yeah,
weekend's international break, innit? It won't be then.
Yeah, true. Fair point. Fair point well made.
yeah, then Sunday just chill. Like, just have a bit of a lie-in, get up ready to watch 2:30 game in London, and of course through to Red Zone at 6 o'clock. Looking forward to hopefully going to a game next year as well, because we've got a lot of incomings and outgoings at the moment, so we've not been able to really consider it. But yeah, from what I've heard from all you guys that have been to games, that it's an unreal experience and definitely something I should look into doing. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely, mate. It's someone like yourself who's used to football. It's a completely different vibe, experience, everything. So, yeah, definitely, mate. I hope you get to one next year. But I'm sure you'll be squeezing in Arsenal versus Man City in between the London game and the 6 o'clock kickoffs as well.
How did you know?
Just an educated guess. Sam, I don't know if you've purposely just dragged something into the frame there, mate. What are you doing? He's keeping himself on mute as to not put himself in the picture. But anyway, that's all right. I'm going to end it now before I start losing my head. That's episode 71 in the books, lads. I'll see you next week.
Night.
Enjoy your night.